Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtrothi, the voice of New Eden, and it is May 14th, YC128. It is the day before the day. This is the Eve Universe show. Actually, not really. Well, yeah, no, this is the day before the day. Yeah, it's Thursday. Hey, welcome, guys. Settle on in, like the stream if you haven't already. It helps out a lot. But today is very much like the preparation day, right? So Fanfest has technically already started. The people that are at Fanfest are being able to do Fanfest stuff. But for the rest of us that didn't manage to make it to Iceland for all of this, this is the day before the day. Tomorrow is the big presentations for the, well, day one of the main presentations for Fanfest. We do have a blog about that. Actually, hold on. Let me just pull that up real quick. Properties. I will admit, I'm not overly planned for today. I do have a couple things to show you guys. What? Here it is. But really today is a preparation day. It's for us to kind of get some ideas about what is, you know, or like talk about what we expect for Fanfest, what we're, you know, yeah, what our expectations are for Fanfest. So one of the things I do want to do is we have this customs bingo card generator. So we want to create some ideas about what might go on to a bingo card, so that way we can all have this bingo card for tomorrow. Now, for those of you who this is your first Fanfest, I want to, well, actually, let's just jump into this conversation with the dev blog that was just posted yesterday. Excuse me. Hold on. Woo! Ah, something's going wrong in my throat. I'm so sorry. I should have talked more this morning to work it all out before I went live. My bad. All right, so Fanfest 2026 starts tomorrow. Can't join us in person for Fanfest. Let me smooth this over here. The best thing is to join the live stream starting on Friday, the 15th of May at 10 UTC. So that's the biggest thing to remember when it comes to Fanfest. If you're new to EVE Online, you're new to this, what's going on to this stuff, this is the first year you've been paying attention to Fanfest. The important thing about Fanfest is that it takes place in Iceland. So all of its timing, all of its, you know, like when they do this stuff is going to be comfortable for the people that are locally there, which means, especially for those of us who are in America, especially for people like me who are West Coast America, that means the time between when these things happen and, you know, when you're reasonably awake and active is very, very different. So this is all UTC. So, you know, GMT, whatever you want to call it. So you have to calculate accordingly for your own time zone. But just to put it into perspective, so this keynote that is tomorrow, which is the big one that we want to pay attention to, it starts at 16:30. I'm going to assume that 17:30 is when it's going to be over. And just so you know, as of right now, if you're watching this live, it is 18:01 in UTC, Eve time, whatever you want to call it, which means that basically in 22 and a half hours, I want to say, maybe that's not 100% correct, but it should be about 22 and a half hours from now will be the keynote. So for those of you who want to watch these other pieces, then, oh, wow, okay, so the Infinite game is attached to the AI stuff. Either way, let's keep going. So for those of you, the opening ceremony is going to be very good, but it's less. The main news for EVE, like the expansion and everything, is going to be in the Fanfest keynote. The opening ceremony is honestly more for the people who are there. It's to set up what's going to happen in Fanfest. It's to tell people where all of the panels are, you know, whatever else is going on. It also is an opportunity for Fenris to really talk about all of their accomplishments and whatnot for the entire year, as well as potentially set up little tidbits for the other main keynotes, because we've got the Eve keynote on the first day, and then on the second day we've got the Vanguard keynote and the Frontier keynote. So chances are some details about these two will be part of potentially the opening ceremony, but honestly, like, that is very much a Fanfesty kind of presentation, as opposed to an announcement or breaking news kind of presentation. And then a lot of this other stuff is going to be more tangentially related, because again, the big announcement is at the very end of the day. So they got to kind of have the whole day be about the other stuff that isn't necessarily about the expansion. So that way they can talk about the expansion here. And then, like, basically the second day is going to be, you know, discussing with the ideas of what was announced at the keynote already in mind, right? So stuff like the Evolving Empires, which is probably about how the weird car outside, how the lore and everything is going to play in the future, and how they develop the lore and understand the lore, especially with such a focus on the empires coming up. And then, you know, art team stuff where they get to show off some of the new visuals that will be coming. So I assume that would be where you would see things like Exordium stuff. And then, you know, finally there's going to be an expansion panel, and the closing ceremony is also kind of administrative. So what my plan is, you know, the opening ceremony is very, very early in the morning for anybody who is, you know, America or even West Coast. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I feel like I didn't actually grab this. Hold on. It is worth noting that you will want to watch the Twitch streams. You will want to watch the Twitch streams. Why did I just get 500 Evermarks? Wait. How do you randomly get 500 Evermarks? I'm sorry. I just had a moment of madness. How do you randomly get 500 Evermarks? What could possibly have just now gotten me 500 Evermarks? I have no idea. Weird. Sorry, I just had my wallet pinged for Evermarks. That's I'm sitting in it. I'm sitting in station. All right, either way. There will come a day when Evermarks have a use. What are you talking about? Evermarks are going to be the way that you pay JITA taxes from now on. Not really, just a joke. But wouldn't that be funny? Anywho, where was I? What was I doing? What were we doing? Wait, is it not here? Hold on. It's on the carousel at the launch. All right, whatever. So there is this capsule skin that is going to be Ash is a paid actor. This is a pod skin. So the big thing here is that you need to watch FanFest for at least 4 hours, I believe, live. So, you know, even if you have to wake up, or as soon as you wake up, put on the CCP, but not the CCP, but the Fenris channel. Oh man, this is so funny. If you go down here, I think that there's even a link here. If you click on this link, last time I checked, it sends you to the CCP page, which isn't correct anymore. It's actually Fenris Creations now, so this isn't a correct link. Hopefully they fix that in time. But the whole point is that you want to watch, especially the CCP channel, well, Fenris Creations channel, to get this pod skin. I think the pod skin is actually already live, so see if I can find it. I thought I saw it put into the game. Forever Creative. Here it is. So, okay, yeah, but the problem here is that obviously there are effects that are not visible here, because you can even see there's arrows here. It's very hard to see in this. But there are like up arrows there, which if we look at the actual picture, we see. So those up arrows can light up, and there's also like an Aurora Universalis special effect that's coming off to the side. So that could be a pretty cool pod skin. And you do require you to watch, I think it's specifically the Fenris Creations channel during FanFest in order to get this. So you've got the 2 days pretty much to cover it. You may have to wake up at a weird time in order to put on the stream in order to get it. But, you know, that is how you're going to be able to get the skin. And then there's also other giveaways going on right now, including the booster crate and 2,000 Evermarks, and then a Skinner component and the Svipul Stark Strategist skin. Which, speaking of which, it is worth noting that yesterday, I didn't see this in the patch notes, but yesterday they did add in a whole new set. These are the same skins that were being put out for the Capsuleer Day, right? So the two versions, the pack that was like $10 or $90 was where 2 or 3 of them went, and then the Omega packages with discount and free skins was where a lot of the other ones came, and now they've added in these extra ones. We've talked about these skins a little bit. Some of them are they're kind of neat. They have some special effects tied to them, although I'm not 100% sure what all of those special effects are, because they don't give me free copies of them. Let's 05.14.128. We can see that that's actually, I've always wanted a golden Abaddon. This is very Jamil coded, even though it's Amatar. The Zealot. These are not known, like I don't believe we know how to get these items into the game yet. They've just been added, so chances are there's going to be a new sale that comes out thanks to FanFest that these things are going to be attached to. The Zealot is, of course, the Tech 2 assault cruiser. Good in the Abyss. Quintessential armor hack. And they do have it for all of the T3 destroyers, which are really good, because T3 destroyers, all the T3s have a lack of good skins for the most part. A gold one's pretty sweet. Cerberus State Regulator. This is the one with this Caldari Syndicate information, which is very, very juicy. But overall, the skin looks pretty cool. I think these are the ones, like kind of like the ones where if you get a kill on it, then the logo of the Empire or whatever shows up on it. But I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. Hold on. Do the pictures show anything good for it? No. Nope, it doesn't show the extra effects. It just says, my understanding is that from Caldari Prime Pony Club, who designed them, like some of the other skins that they've designed, it does have special effects if you get kills or like in warp or whatever. The Rogue one, I mean, if you like this Caldari Digicamo, this skin line is pretty slick. And the Bifrost. Wait, do we not? Oh, there's the Jackdaw. Just for completion, we'll just check out this one first. I say that these ships don't have pretty good ones, but they actually do. I mean, they've got, you know, Vital Ship Ego for the Caldari one. There's the T3 destroyers at this point have had really good ones made for them, but if I remember correctly, T3 destroyers as well as T3 cruisers do not allow you to do Skinner. So at least there's that kind of uniqueness to them. The pod skin looks like a marquee target me freighter skin, maybe. Speaking of skins, will there be any big sales this year given all the sales that we've just had? I mean, I think that things like we just had with the Omega sale is basically the kind of expectation that you would have. It was an Omega sale, right? So maybe they'll have like a Plex Pack sale as the next piece to this. It's hard to say for sure. I don't like to try to predict these sorts of things. I just know that these are premium stuff, and the previous 2 iterations of this skin have been tied to a Capsuleer Day pack and a Plex or a Omega discount sale. So chances are there's going to be some sort of Fanfest celebratory pack or something that these could be tied to, but I'm not 100% clear. It's also, remember that today is Thursday, so 1 week from today is the start of the last week of Capsuleer Day. So it could be somewhat connected to that. The Magus, one of my favorite command destroyers. And the that's it for that. So there's only one Gallente one. Wait, where's the Hecate? Wait, hold on. Do they not have a Hecate presidential one? Are they the one that didn't get it? Yeah. What the hell? Okay, whatever. Fine. Screw Gallente, I guess. They only got the Magus in this run. And then, of course, the capsule skin that we were just looking at. Oh, here, look. The capsule skin even has a quote by Alexander Ducassi. So lots of Evermore stuff in the future. In the face of unknowable future, the only defense is unending creativity. Okay. When does the track get extended? 1 week from today. Nest Monopoly, we get Evermarks instead. You know that, like, well, of course you know, but like Evermore broke the Nest Monopoly. Gallente just constantly getting screwed over. It's really funny when people claim that CCP is mean to Caldari. It's like, whew. Although, I mean, they did just make it so that Gallente can go to Jita. That's fun. No presidential skin for the faction with the president. Makes sense. Well, I mean, no, what I mean by that is so each of the 4 empires have their own version of the skin, and the Gallente one was the presidential one, right? So, like if we go for the what is that thing? Hyperion. Like the Hyperion has the presidential agent. That's the name of the skin. And then get hunted 1 jump out of Jita? Sure, why not? For sure. Like I said before, just think fast thoughts. You'll be fine. I'm hoping that we get a cosmetic upgrade announcement at FanFest that lets kill marks be projected like the art that they showed off a couple years ago. I have suggested over and over and over again that we need skins like that get more complicated, like particle effects that happen the more kill marks you have. Not just like right now it's just 1. Well, there are some ships that some skins that change once you have a kill mark, like the one that we got for the Enyo, right? That one has that Gallente logo that appears only after you've gotten a kill mark. But then there's other skins like the rabbit skin, the red Stargazer skin that came out that was associated with the Year of the Rabbit Chinese New Year, I think it was. That one like has these fireworks that shoot out based on the number of kills and the quality of the kill. So like the bigger the ship that you kill, the more fireworks it gets. And that actually goes off every single time you like dock or undock, and every time you get a kill, like this big cloud of fireworks come out. So these things are possible, and they have shown ideas of like skins that like get progressively cooler the more kill marks that you have. That would be awesome. I suggested back in the day when they had Proving Grounds that they should have had like a special skin that, like, when you go into Proving Grounds, if you win and you don't have the skin on, you unlock the base version of that skin. But if you do have that skin on, then you unlock the next quality of that skin. So if you saw a person with like the 10 tier quality, that means that they have beaten the Proving Grounds 10 times in a row without losing in that ship. Because if you die, then sorry, my bad. The key to this was that it was a volatile skin. So if you die in that ship with that skin on, then you lose the skin completely. So the only way to get the tier 10 version of the skin would be to win in the Proving Grounds 10 times in a row, because you have to have the skin on when you go in. Once you've locked up each other, you can no longer change your skin, so you're committed. So you have to have the skin on, go in there. If you die, you lose it completely. If you win, it upgrades. Unfortunately, they kind of stopped doing Proving Grounds, so they were never able to do that. But they did suggest that that was the kind of thing that could be possible. So, you know, sky's the limits and all that. Main thing, if they announce Proving Grounds coming back. Proving Grounds, we should definitely put that on the list. Let's put that on our list. Where is my list? We are going to put on... We're going to put down Proving Grounds, PI. What else? What else do we want to put on here while we have it? Hold on. There's been people suggesting stuff in the EVE Universe Show channel in Discord, so let's make sure to grab those. New carriers, like faction carriers. We'll do that, and then Serpentis and Capital PVE, and what else is there? What else did we get? We got new faction warfare plexes, missions. We'll just put in missions, or mission rework. But I also want to put in epic arc, because like a new epic arc, right? Or we can also put in cosmos. We'll just put that in there just in case, just because nobody wants to get a bingo, right? We want nobody to win the bingo here. If we put in Serpentis, we got to put in blood raiders. Standings. That's actually a pretty good chance to get mentioned during the Fanfest. Are we going to go? We can put Sancha in here. Sancha. Oh yeah. Projection. We'll just say projection. Super capital. Okay, you guys want super caps too? Super caps. We'll just put down super caps. If they mention super caps at all, we'll be good to go. Drifter. How many items do we need on this thing? I don't even know. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, right now we've got a 4x4. We'll keep going. It'll be a 24/7 EVE radio station set up in Iceland headquarters, just like EVE Radio was a year ago. Yep. Vanguard Beta 2. So the problem is that this is specifically for the EVE Online keynote. So there's the Vanguard keynote too. So we could put Vanguard stuff here, but I'm not sure how much that would be a thing. I was going to put down, so Atioth. AI. Oh God. Do we want to do that? Cat ears. They're not going to mention cat ears. AI. Plex for good. Yeah. Triglavians. Server performance. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. But is that, do we want to put that in quotes? Like, what's going to make that qualify? Complete elimination from passcode from the game? No, we're not putting delusional things on here. Avalon. We are going to talk about Avalon today. Python? Wait. You think they're going to specifically call out the Python? Creating new worlds like they said on the new FC site? Wait, are you talking about the creating worlds more real than real life, or more important, or more whatever than real life? So what's funny about that expression, I saw people freak out about that, but that has literally been CCP's like tagline since their creation. So a man can dream. So as CCP Fozzie put it, the hardest part about removing passes is the actual act of removing them, right? Like, they can make them obsolete, but like there's a lot of work that goes into the act of ensuring that they are out of the game. And that work, doesn't get them anything because it's just removing something from the game that isn't actually harming anything. And it could, theoretically, the removal could harm things because there are people that still use POS towers in wormholes and stuff like that. So there are POS towers like in space functioning right now. So it's like, well, what do? You'd have to have a moratorium, and then you have to justify it. I think CCP has just pretty much accepted the fact that POSs are like the whole POS player structure thing is just an accretion issue, and they're not going to be able to address it per se, right? The best thing that they can do about it is basically the state that they're at right now. That's why I'm saying, like, I mean, they could surprise me. Who knows? I might owe, who is it? Stealth Suit, a skin or something. Sindel Pelion? You think that they're just going to mention Sindel Pelion? Walking in stations? Uh-oh, what happened to Paladin? Paladin, no! Oh, he said, I really liked it. Oh, no, he said something, but he had a period. Word period. Player-owned star bases should be player-owned structures like the MTU and not be tied into the upwell anchoring. POSs aren't tied into upwell anchoring. Wormhole sob? Wormholes. Wormholes. Yeah. New gate. We could say Exordium, although we know that they're going to, I mean, that's the one that we know they're going to talk about. G to 4-4. Pochvin structure destruct. We'll just say Pochvin. That opens tomorrow. The new gates. I predict that the Exordium gate, if I could predict anything, Exordium gate will open either on Tuesday or on Thursday of next week. I think that the Exordium being open for the last week of the event is probably a pretty decent assumption. And that it also, there could be a piece to this whole event, and or even like the next event that's about the construction of Exordium, right? Because they've even said, or like, sorry, not said, but in Hobo Leaks, you can see when they started all of this stuff. Can I still find it? Is it down here? No. Where is it? There it is. So we have the partially constructed Federation shipcaster, Imperial shipcaster, Republic shipcaster, but no Caldari shipcaster. That could very well be because the Caldari shipcaster was the one that was already going to be part of this was added in earlier, and we just missed it. Yeah, because we also have the shipcaster construction site. So this looks like everybody besides the Caldari is working on a shipcaster. But again, I think that that could very well be... Yeah, there it is. See? They had a different site. I assume, like, when they're experimenting with it, they started with one, and that one became the Caldari shipcaster. And so, you know, they added in the new ones here, but when they had already previously added in the Caldari one and just renamed it. Either way. Whoa, they also changed... Wait. I didn't notice that they changed the description of the region of Syndicate. It went from a den of thieves, scoundrels, bandits, black market dealers, gamblers, pimps, and prostitutes, all in one, a nice place for a holiday, by an unnamed Galente senator. But apparently Haikatorogo has, you know, the leader of the Caldari militia forces, has basically stolen that quote. But removed pimps and prostitutes and changed it to traders, and then we'll bring it to heel instead of all in all a nice place for a holiday. So, you know, Caldari stealing a senator's quote and reworking it. Cool. I thought the whole debacle with POS code was that anchoring used to be for player stations, keep stars and such, and the same code, and the anchoring of the player owns towers. No, so the problem with POSes was that POSes were fundamental to sovereignty when sovereignty was first made. And so because of that, there's a lot of pieces of the POS code that's tied into core systems like sovereignty in ways that CCP to this day is still relatively terrified about. But yeah. Going off history, Zarzak opened on FanFest. Yes. But I think that one of the reasons why they've set things up the way that they have is because they don't necessarily want it to happen at FanFest, because that kind of punishes the people that are at FanFest who can't participate right away. And given the fact that they've set up the trial date for Sylphie to the 19th, and of course, so the 19th is Tuesday, and then 2 days later is Thursday, which it triggers the last week of Warpath. I think that they'll probably let people get home before it goes totally crazy. But, I mean, who knows? We'll see. You could be right. I could be wrong. That's happened before. Space whales? Loot pinata NPCs that roam around from region to region? Maybe? Did they not say it would? They said that it would be opened before the release of the expansion. Am I wrong? I mean, again, I'm just making my guess. I'm trying to be very conservative here in my predictions, because I've historically, when I try to like read the tea leaves and be like, oh man, there's totally a hole for this to be added in. I always, my creativity seems to outstrip the practicality of the situation. So, let's see. Let's see. Where does it say? Okay. Okay, hold on. Oh, the road to Exordium. Here we go. Not yet accessible to players. Sometime before FanFest, the new region will open for visits. Wait. Before FanFest? Okay, they're running out of time. They're running out of time before FanFest. Okay, I mean, fine. You know what? Let's put down Exordium opens. And we'll just agree that if for some reason that happens before now and then, like if they do it today, then it just automatically counts for this, I guess. I need to spell it right. Exordium, right? Yeah. Has anybody tried to see if the gate is open? I mean, I would hope that that would be in the patch notes. It's not. By the way, the patch notes there is today. You can now set a default skin. I know this is kind of a random day, but like if you go in here, you can now, like if you have your ship and you go to your personalization and skins, you can now there's a little star on a skin that lets you set it as the default. So now anytime you assemble a new ship, it doesn't work for old ships apparently. But anytime you assemble a new ship, it'll automatically assign that skin to that ship. Did they already have the keynote? No, the keynote is tomorrow. So again, like basically the way it works is that the keynote will be over probably 23 hours from right now, okay? And so my stream will start at the normal time, which should be roughly 30 minutes after the keynote is over, which should give time for like the VOD and everything to get processed. So then I'll go live and then we will go over the keynote on stream and talk about that. And then we can talk about, you know, go over any other videos that are worth going over from day one. And then on Saturday, we're going to be doing an extra special stream because it's the second day of FanFest. So we'll be covering the Vanguard keynote, the Frontier keynote, and anything else that might end. And probably, actually, honestly, Saturday is probably going to be a long stream because there's a lot of good stuff on Saturday. Schedule says 16:30 for keynote. Yes, but it is currently 18:30, right? So that's what I was saying. Like the keynote would have been over an hour ago. It would have started 2 hours ago. So 22 hours to the keynote from right now. Well, roughly 22 hours minus 4 minutes. Let's see. What else are we talking about? What's going on? 10-year vet only station. Oh my god. I you know, I appreciate you, Sticks, for never give up. Never give up on the 10-year veteran station. Just make Zarzak into it. Whatever. They actually, unironically, they should put a 10-year vet station like either in Uli or in Exordium, just so that we have a place to hang out around all the new bros. It's like I want to hang out near the new bros, but I don't want to live with them. Ugh. Last week I accidentally populated an Exordium system in the nav computer and it kind of broke and did nothing. Yeah, you can. There are some ways, like on the map online, to be able to pull up Exordium systems, and then it's very broken. That's true. How long are we guessing the keynote lasts? My guess is an hour. Okay, so for those of you who do not know, back in the day, like when I first joined the game in 2010, this was still something that is talked about a lot. I don't know exactly when the idea of it was spawned, but I assume it was around that time or shortly thereafter that CCP started kind of tongue-in-cheek kicking around this idea of a special station that you can only dock in if you've been there for 10 years. And if I remember correctly, it was something based on the fact that, you know, like software companies like to give a big like thing to people that have been there for a long time, especially swords. And this is a big thing for the Viking Fenris Creations company. So they give out these swords for somebody who's been there for like, I think it's at least 10 years. And so the idea is that the equivalent of that in EVE would be a special station that only characters that are at least 10 years old can dock in. This was talked about a lot back in the day, and then over time have sort of stopped being talked about more and more. Yeah, Hilmar talked about it like 10 years ago. It's true. Also possible gates in Jita disabled from damage. It would be really cool to turn off the Jita gates on FanFest. I will say, if you want to prepare yourself for FanFest and you are going to watch it live, it is worth making sure that you have a Jita alt there in Jita ready to go as soon as they announce a thing and you can like put up a market order for it or whatever, you will have seconds to get it done. But you know, that's how I made a fortune one time with Dominix's. Would make sense to put in an NPC Palatine Keepstar. They should not. The Palatine Keepstar should not be in the game until players build it. All right. So let's see. Anything else we want to put in? Anything else we want to put in? I mean, there's going to be a trailer, obviously. Freelance jobs. Freelance jobs. What about anything involving corporate branding? Corp branding. Skinner. Yeah. Molden Heath / oh man, this is gonna be too much. Is that gonna, do I have too many things? We might have too many things. I don't know. I don't know how this thing works if you put in too many things, but we'll see. What else are we doing? AI? We put in AI, didn't we? Yeah, I put AI. Vanguard, you know, look, we put in Avalon. The thing is that Vanguard has their own keynote. Do we put Vanguard on here too separately? It's probably going to be there, right? They'll probably at least mention the word. Yeah, we can put it on. Just talking about anything to do with the eVanguard connection. Yeah, well, we put in Avalon. Who was it? Somebody in Discord posted. It was Wizard. Kaj posted this really interesting line from about Avalon. I haven't gotten it confirmed where it came from yet, though. They might talk about walking. What's W? Walking in stations? Are we talking about walking in stations? Do we have walking in stations on here yet? We don't have walking in stations. Walking in stations. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else might be on there? Is this enough? How many things do we get? Oh, this is already 5 by 5. We might have too many things. This might be good. This might be it. If they do walking in stations, it'll be using the Vanguard client. I both hope so and expect that. Correct. We could, I mean, Plex for good. I mean, that's almost a gimme. What happens if I get extra ones? I think this will still work, right? So yeah, I expect that the CCP keynote is going to be a lot of stats, or like the opening event is going to be a lot of stats, a lot of all their stuff. It may be the one time that they mention Eve Galaxy Conquest, but the Eve Online keynote is going to specifically be about what they've done in the last year and the next expansion. So Gallente election, or I mean, we don't even have like Gallente election or military campaigns or anything like that. So let's go ahead and Gallente election, military campaigns, syndicate. 5x5 is the standard bingo card. Yeah, but I don't know whether or not it'll use all of the elements that I've put in here just randomly. I assume it will. So not everybody's going to have the same ones. Salvaging. Let's put in salvaging. I love it. Salvaging. And I'm going to change this from I'm going to put Eve Forever up here, and I'm going to turn the free space into trailer, because we will absolutely have a trailer. So the free space is going to be the trailer. I think the Eve keynote would have Eve Award winners announced. Maybe. Hold on. Go to news. I feel like they talk about that, or hold on. So Thursday, this is today, we have Project Discovery, Predicting the Future, third-party ESI. Boy, I hope that's important. E for Everyone. Hey, look, there's the Eve Galaxy Conquest and Eve Echoes panel. I found it. I found Eve Galaxy Conquest and Echoes. I love that they've been relegated to the same side bin. So that's Thursday. Friday. Man, I wish the Little Things panel was on the mainstream. I think that if anything, the opening ceremonies might be a place to present it. Yeah. Oh no, here it is, right there. Creator Awards at 19:30. So right before the party at the top of the awards. So they're going to have a big present, like it's an after hours event. So there you go. Loyalty points. Loyalty points. And well, normally they would announce the CSM. Wait, what happened to the CSM election? When was the CSM election? Did the CSM election already happen? I'm so confused. When was the last CSM election? That was... I don't even remember when the last... Wait. What happened? Wait. Am I... Evermarks counts as loyalty points in this world, I would say. Do I have Evermore? Wait, do we have Evermore on here? How do we not have Evermore on here? All right, we'll put Evermore on here. It was before Christmas? Okay. Yeah, it's not going to be on stream. Well, Man. Oh, I want to put one on. Ready? Presidential. Oh my god, I can't spell. Hold on. Let me figure out how to spell this. How do I spell presidential? Presidential address. Spell check that. All right. And then I can go boop, presidential address. Okay. Odd. It's so weird that I can't remember why, but there's all like I mean, CSM usually gets announced at FanFest, so the fact that they've put it out of sync, I do know that FanFest has moved a couple times in the last few years, but I don't know. Not my point. Not my problem right now. Okay. Let's call this good for right now. I already put in Skinner. We have Skinner. I feel like this is enough stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 20, 30, like 36 things, and it only needs 25, so that should be good. Spark 2.0. Oh man, Styx, I appreciate you so much. Like you want to set me up for things to talk about. People are like, what's Spark? Don't worry about it. Just don't even worry about it right now. I can't even make it relevant to the conversation at the moment, so that's fine. I'm gonna just hit, I think this is right. So let's go ahead and hit next step. Spark and Vanguard would be interesting. I mean, it could work. 30 cards for free. Oh no. I don't want to pay for these things. I can get 30 cards for free, right? Let's go. All right. Well, here is the virtual cards. Each player will get a link to their own unique... Hold on. Virtual... Everyone who follows this link will get one of 30 random bingo cards. Perfect. Perfect. Gunjack? Yeah, okay. Gunjack is at least a little bit more relevant. What is Spark, though? Spark was a VR sports game that CCP produced at one point. So that's going to be our link. I'm going to also post it in the EV Universe Show channel so you can grab it for yourself. And that'll be our bingo cards for viewing it. Obviously, if you want to watch it live, you can just do it for yourself. Otherwise, we can do it when we watch it tomorrow at the normal stream time. Yeah, it's VR Pong. That's not incorrect. Hold on.
Ready for it.
Yeah. This was back when, like, VR was super new. PSVR was super new. I just realized the audio. No, don't demonetize me. Like, intense. It really is just Tron, isn't it? What do we win? Nothing. All right. That's Spark. Okay, so, but I think that we're going to move on from this right now. We're going to cover the latest couple of videos from Vanguard. They're relatively short, actually, but I think they're going to be good. One of them is going to be Vanguard FanFest, and the other is going to be lore. So I haven't watched either of these yet, but they do whatever they can to make it seem as epic, intense, and dramatic as possible. You also, I don't think you can play it at all anymore. Like, literally, I don't think it's available anywhere to play. It's kind of like Valkyrie. Anywho, let's jump into Vanguard's at FanFest first look. Yeah, that's fine. We'll look at them. And then we'll probably do some faction warfare for a little bit and then call it a day.
What happens when I ad-lib too much?
Oh my god. Be louder.
What do they say in anger management? Goose rubber. Goose rubber. What does he say in Bowfinger? Keep it together, keep it together, keep it together, keep it together, keep it together.
What can Vanguard fans expect from FanFest?
Oh, lots of exciting announcements. Not just about what's going into what you'll be able to play very soon, but we'll also be announcing at FanFest some plans that we have for future features, not just for Vanguard, but how we bridge that connection through to EVE Online as well.
I can't believe we didn't put Bastions on the list, but that should go under Vanguard.
Any sneak previews you can give us? No is an acceptable answer.
What, I mean, like, I'm trying to think. I don't want to show stuff that's going into the trailer. You can have a look at the new weapon if you'd like.
Yeah.
There we go.
What are you, as Game Big Boss, expecting from FanFest?
Hopefully build up some hype.
Oh.
We're bringing a lot of cool stuff that not a lot of people have seen, and for those that haven't seen anything since they last played the game in Operation Nemesis, there's a lot of changes that have been made to the game, and we will kind of want to reset a lot of people's assumptions of what the game might be and where it's going.
All right, a change of pace now. What are you taking to FanFest?
What am I taking? Because it's the only suitcase large enough, a very large pink suitcase. Snorri's credit card, because he left it here in the UK, and I'm taking it back to him. No, my work laptop, because it's got all of the presentations on it, and I would hate to lose them.
Who do you hope to meet at FanFest?
Oh, I hope to recently caught up with Loru and that guy Toxic, and I know they're both hosting FanFest this time around, so I'm hoping to catch up with them, maybe grab a beer with them while I'm in Iceland.
Right, speaking of beers, what will you be getting up to aside from your presentation?
The pub crawl. Yes, there's the pub crawl that happens on a Thursday. I've already been assigned a team. It's gonna be me, CCP Ratati, and a few other people. We'll be running our own pub crawl team. So if you're in the pub crawl, see you there. That's always very fun, marching around Reykjavik.
I will say that as those of us who stay home for FanFest, we get to hear a lot about all of the cool stuff that they're going to be doing at FanFest. The lava tube stuff, there's usually tours. It's a big event for Reykjavik and all of Iceland, honestly, just because of the amount of people that comes to Iceland for this event that normally aren't there. It's a huge tourism opportunity for Iceland. And of course, CCP or Fenris Creations has always had kind of an adult vibe to them. As I say, they're a bunch of Vikings. And so drinking and alcohol has been a piece of FanFest, unshakable piece of the of EVE Online conventions forever. And so, yeah, they have this pub crawl where they go between all the different major bars in Reykjavik, and they split people up into teams. Good time. And it's also a really great time if you are at FanFest to like get that secret information or to have your one-on-one chat with the devs.
Like an army, we pretty much invade the whole town during that pub crawl.
Oh yeah, I will say, from experience, never try to outdrink an Icelandic guy. Like seriously, it is at best you will fail.
And I'll have tokens that get me free drinks, so I'll be very happy about that. But yes, that is annoyingly always the night before the keynote that happens in the morning.
Dutch Gunner says FanFest started as a pub crawl. with Bar Night with CCP devs. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it grew out of the pub crawl. That's true. And Dutch Gunner, of course, would know better than most. You're not going this year. You're obviously not going to be in Iceland this year, are you, Dutch? I know we've got Sawdeath there. I don't know if anybody else who's like commonly part of the stream or in the convocation is going to be there. It is always funny that means that day 2, right? So if we go to like, yeah, on day 2, so the Vanguard keynote and the Capsular Edda and all that stuff, people will be very hungover on those presentations. At least some people will.
So I do remember us having to lean on hair of the dog in the green room before the presentation last time.
If we look at stereotypes, Russians might be able to outdrink the Icelandic Vikings. Maybe. I haven't actually. Have I? I mean, I've gone drinking with Russians before. Yeah. I mean, it's very similar. That said, like, I would say that Russians like to drink. Icelandic folk like to drink you under the table, and also are more likely to favor drinks that are very hard to drink, right? Because like in Iceland, they tried to crack down on alcohol by producing their own, like making it so that the only real alcohol that could be produced there was this like really quote unquote bad tasting I can't remember what the name of it is, but there's a specific type of alcohol that's like Icelandic, that it was explicitly made by the Icelandic, or like in conjunction with the Icelandic government, to be bad to drink because it tastes so bad. And yet, you know, they're Vikings, and so they've embraced it. So it's not just about how much you can drink, it's what you can drink, it's what you can tolerate, and that kind of stuff. It's just a whole different culture. Yeah, exactly. Russian people like to drink a lot, but they drink mostly vodka, which can be thrown into everything and just get you hammered. That's a totally different thing. Also, probably, well, there goes any monetization, I guess. Shit. All right, I should probably go back and flag that as being true. Look, only drink responsibly is what I'm trying to say.
Just to make sure that we were ready.
Any tips for a FanFest first timer?
Oh, look out for, throughout Reykjavik, restaurants and bars will have a sticker in their window saying that they are like, it's like a FanFest sticker. You might be able to get some deals, or... Yeah,
like I said, it's a huge deal throughout all of Iceland, or like at least Reykjavik. FanFest is a huge event for them.
Some discounts. A lot of the restaurants and bars support a lot of people being there. So if you've got a FanFest ticket with you, look out for stickers on bars and restaurants. You might be able to get a good deal.
That is a great tip.
If you can't make it to Reykjavik to watch FanFest live in person, our keynote will be streamed on the EVE Online Twitch channel. So, and they go out on YouTube after they've wrapped up as well. So go there to watch it back to see all of the announcements and find out how you might be able to join the next big playtest that we're running. Hopefully there's not too much alcohol chatter. It's not going to drive the Peggy rating up to 16.
Even he's like, oh, no, if we talk too much about that, then it'll put our ratings up. No, yeah, so it is worth noting that the Vanguard keynote is like very early on day 2. So for those of us in, I think it's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning for me. So chances are like that, again, so on Saturday at I believe the normal time, we will be going live and we will cover the Vanguard keynote and the Frontier keynote, as well as anything else that's worth covering from FanFest. So be there. So that is the FanFest stuff. That's fine, but this one's far more interesting, this video. What happened to Dust 514? Or so what happened after Dust 514? So we've been tracing a bunch of this stuff. You know, we have all these different characters and all that stuff. This is a relatively short video, so I'm not sure how much useful information is going to be there, but maybe we'll have something to talk about.
In terms of the lore, what can Vanguard fans expect from FanFest?
They can expect to hear about the history of, like, retelling of the history of Warclones, and you know what's happened to Warclones since Dust 514, and how the Warclones arrived at their current situation at the start of the game. So, what is the context narratively for Vanguard?
So basically, the short of it is, and again, we're going to get more information about this, but you know, we have the Warclones. They're originally developed as Templars. by the Amar, but of course that technology quickly gets broken out of, during the events of the Empyrean Age. And they kind of drift around through mercenary groups, largely the largest one being the Arcombine, and they work with Mortis Legion for a while and, do their stuff and hide from, any sort of termination orders or whatever, until, of course, the Deathless kind of comes onto the scene and puts out his invitation, and then specifically Arcombine kind of comes over and starts this stock, but he creates this big project of upgrading the old mercenary infomorphs into this new system, which is the Vanguard. And then since then, the Vanguard have more or less managed to break free of the Deathless's command by creating their own headquarters outside of Zarzak known as Avalon. But that's the part of this that we know very, very little about, right? What is Avalon, or where is Avalon? Who's associated with it? We think that Lifegiver and a few others got more connected to Avalon than the Deathless potentially. How the Deathless feels about all of this is something that we don't really know yet. And how Avalon was more or less like the template for Avalon was found and developed by Concord and others, which will lead to other bastions to work for as we get closer and closer to like Vanguard being released and available. And eventually there'll be there should be NPC bastions, and then eventually player bastions. At least that's what they've said in the past. Obviously within the next 2 days we're going to find out a lot more information about that. But that is kind of the TLDR, very short Dust 514 to Vanguard kind of thing. Actually, there is one video that I do love to show. Hold on. There was a video from Project Nova that kind of fills in a piece of the gap. And this is interesting because this is the very first time we ever saw, or I believe this is when we first heard from Kashia Valkanir, the head of Edencom. So the person talking here is, I think, Kashia Valkanir. So much louder.
Wake up. You're not dead yet. You were immortal once. Brutal and merciless. A symbol of death and bloodshed. Now you lie broken. Betrayed. Forsaken. I offer redemption. The great darkness casts its shadow, gathering its forces, harvesting humanity. Be our deliverance. Rise.
So obviously this is Project Nova, not Vanguard. This is from 2018, but this is what a lot of the lore that's, if you remember, if you've watched a lot of my videos, you'll notice a pattern, which is that anytime I talk about what's going on now, I have to start way in the past, right? And sometimes I start in 2008, sometimes I start in 2012, but a lot of the time when we start talking about the modern EVE Online storyline, when we talk about things like the Deathless or Edencom or Triglavians or Drift, or even, to a lesser extent Drifters, but like a lot of these things that have been going on, everything starts in 2018 because that was when they were starting to build up the story that leads to Project Nova. Now obviously, again, Project Nova got canceled, but this is a picture of Kashia Valkanir. The original, what was eventually going to be Project Nova, was at the time called Case Red or Green Magic, where there was basically the shipping lanes between Molten Heath, and Aridia was having a high amount of hijacking, right? And if you go back into the lore now and look into this, they'll say that it was originally believed to be Sancha, but they now think it probably was maybe Triglavians, but it's less known who it was. Like, they've officially kind of smoothed this over a little bit to figure out who it was that was doing Case Green Magic or the problem. there. But originally it was supposed to be Sancha, right? So this whole thing about this threat that they're talking about here, like this is Sancha. You can see these are Sancha dudes. You can see Sancha ships in the background. But this whole Sancha string of this story has been more or less sanded over. It could very well still be true that this was originally an effort by Sancha. But the point is that within a year, we now had the Triglavians showing up, and eventually the Triglavian invasions in 2019. And that whole process was like, as the what happened was, as invasions was getting ready, players that were doing the Abyss started finding the shipyard where they were constructing the world arcs for the first time. And when people started going to the forums and demanding answers from Concord about what's going on in the Abyss, instead of Ovig Durst, they were messaging Ovig Durst, because Ovig Durst is the head of Concord's Black Ops division, basically, the Sorrow division. But who responded was Kashia Valkanir, who basically said that Case Red Gamma, which is the Drifter Triglavian project, or like research project from Concord, has been taken over by Aegis, Kashia Valkanir. Because Aegis's whole thing originally was to be the ground soldiers. That's what this is what this video is all about. Is that, you know, the Aegis project was about creating immortal foot soldiers for Concord, and obviously it's ballooned since then. But there's been a whole bunch of development in War Clones. This is actually why originally they wanted Edencom to be the main villain of Insurgencies. But then players that were wanting to work for the Empires didn't want to work for Edencom, which is why they quickly swapped it out for Upwell and Mortis Legion as the main defenders, which is why there's a little bit of weirdness with the lore, because it was supposed to be that like the Deathless was the Vanguard and Edencom, Kashia Valkanir, and all them were the defenders. But because nobody wanted, because there's a bitter taste in their mouth for the way that Edencom treated their people during invasions, people didn't want to work for Edencom anymore, so they had to change that. So there's a little bit of wonkiness in all this, but you got to understand that there was, at least at one point in the 2018 project, this project to kind of restore the War Clones, which failed. Eventually the Mordu started doing his own research project with War Clones, developing their War Clones, and then those War Clones that were with Mordu betrayed him and moved to the Deathless, which caused Mordu to start working on new projects for War Clones alongside Upwell, the Syndicate, and the Caldari. Remember, this is how this all ties into each other. All this stuff that's been going on with the Syndicate, all of it, I think, is going to be directly tied to Vanguard. One of my predictions for Syndicate, I think that we could fight over the future of Syndicate in the next military campaign, but it's also just as likely, if we look at this, if we open up the map, we'll see that Syndicate is right here and adjacent to Outer Ring. And Outer Ring is Ore. Ore is part of Upwell. Syndicate has a lot of, there's been a lot of investment in Syndicate recently by Quaif and others. There was some stuff with the Syndicate War Clone that Mordu was working with that we found. And so I would not be surprised if Mordu and Upwell attempts to claim the Syndicate region from the Caldari, thereby making these two regions Upwell territory as part of getting ready for Vanguard. Again, unsure about that, but I mean, it's definitely up in the air. It's definitely a possibility. The Edencom Sinojammers and Losec made them serious bad guys for Nullsec. That's true. That is also true. Very funny, but also true. But no, the problem is that people chose to join with Edencom, and then they felt left high and dry. You know, the Triglavians got Pochvin and all of the coolness with that, and Edencom just got their suits, and they felt cheated because they were fighting for the status quo, you know? And so this led to a lot of bitterness towards Edencom specifically. Possibly during the military campaigns? Yes, exactly. And they've even said that the summer military campaign, so I'm not sure if it's going to be the first one. I don't know how long military campaigns are going to last, but they said during the summer military campaign, the Vanguard playtest for the summer will directly tie into it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a very good chance that all of this is going to come together in a very serious way. Some didn't even get the suits. Yeah, you had to have certain standings. Did some people have the standings and didn't even get the suit? That'd be terrible. Just shared on the Discord a slide from the RMT panel and the crazy amount of ISK confiscated. Oh. Is this year? Is this year or is this total? Hold on. That's million. So 33 trillion ISK confiscated due to RMT. 1 trillion ISK from a single corporation. Wasn't there a whole thing about fraternity getting neg-walleted this year? Suits and ships that are too hard to get and usually useless for content. Well, yeah. Well, Edencom ships should be easier to get, true. But ironically enough, people that participate in pro-Edencom stuff, i.e. going after the Triglavian minor victories, technically have the best access to Edencom ships, and that actually makes their LP very valuable. But, like, again, everybody was so bitter about how the end of invasions went down that you haven't really seen that many active pro-Edencom groups outside of, like, Professor Shiplock with Edencom Defense Initiative, or the Edencom, I can't remember his group's name now, but we saw his Thunderchild, yes, on Tuesday. You know, there are definitely some people that are pro Edencom, but not nearly as much as, like, there's a lot of people that are bitter to Edencom because of their support. They didn't mention if it was just this year. I mean, 33 trillion, it feels like it could very well be just within the year. Especially with 330 billion from a single character. You're one of those bitter. I mean, and I think that you kind of have a right to be. I do say that, like, you were fighting for the status quo. So, like, the idea that you didn't get any, like, oh, why didn't we get a special region of space? I mean, you weren't fighting for that, right? And I think that Edencom defenders did. I mean, like, you guys secured twice as many systems as the Trig did. Like, by all means, you guys did amazing. And your work was, well, it made a very big difference in the grand scale of things. Sure, you didn't prevent the formation of Pochvin, but there were so many systems that you saved, including specifically Arshat, which became a major plot point from that point on, and would not have happened if it wasn't for Edencom's great efforts there. So I agree. I mean, like, I've always said that I think that all 1.0, or I guess now 0.9 systems should be made into Edencom fortresses, and you guys should probably have some extra cool stuff in Edencom fortresses that are just for, pro Edencom guys. But I mean, at the same time, like, you fought to defend the universe and you defended the universe. Good job. Literally using EVE Online for illegal currency conversion. It can be a big thing. Yeah. Did you forget about the lure from the story arc involving ore? Like, would that also have something to do with this mess? Yes. Yeah. I mean, or Edencom and possibly the Caldari, and since it's ore, it's obviously Upwell, are all very high. Like, they are doing experimentations on the Drifter tech. This is obvious. The ore Epic Arc points this out. The ore, the fact that the ore already had the beacons ready to go to take advantage of the fractures. Yeah, absolutely. Like, the other shoe is definitely going to drop about this particular conspiracy. We're just going to have to see where it is. Like I said, Mordu was caught in Syndicate using, or like practicing with Syndicate war clones, and Caldari have also been caught using bioadapted soldiers, and the Caldari And I think the Mimitar were reported as working on new developments on shipcaster technology, including like things from beaming you up and down from space, which, remember, this idea of like beaming people up and down from space is part of the Vanguard changes, right? So there's probably a new transport system that is a little bit less safe, more destructive for biological matter, because, you know, when you get pulled up in Vanguard, your clone gets ripped apart, but it's safe enough for the equipment and the resources that you're extracting. So that's going to be the extraction system for Vanguard. So that's a piece to this too. But we're going to have to just see how it all comes together. And like I said, 2 days from now, we're going to know a lot more. Except where you failed? What do you mean? Except where you failed? What are you talking about? I mean, there's a lot of systems to defend. There's a total of, I think, 80 systems that could have progressed. And all we had to do is get 27 of them. So we were getting pretty close to the end. I think there was only like 10 or 15 more systems that could have been eligible by the time that invasions ended. The Edencom got closer than anyone really like gives them credit for, from completely preventing Pachvin from forming. And the Niar, I will also admit that like the Niarja battle, which we talked about the other day, I showed off the fact of how much effort got put into the Niarja battle by the Triglavian side in order to make it happen, because it was not a scripted event. The fact that Niarja went live directly after Arshat did is probably the single most defining moment of the invasions. And again, that was decided 100% by the AI that was controlling the Triglavian collective's efforts. So I don't know if it was like a tactically smart decision that it came up on, or if it just got really freaking lucky. But attacking Niarja directly after Arshat changed that probably defined the way that Niarja went more than Goons joining. Because I personally believe that if Niarja had gone live, like if Arshat had not happened, or whatever, like if Niarja had happened at any other time during the invasion, it's very possible that Edencom would have secured it before it had gone on long enough, because the Goons didn't show up until like 12 plus, or probably more than that, 18 plus hours into the fighting. And so it could have very well been that Edencom would have been able to make significant progress beforehand. But it was true that a lot of them were pretty burned out or rested, or they were resting from this monument. It is so crazy. It is so crazy that Edencom took Arshat. Like it's hard to even explain how much work, dedication, coordination, and effort Edencom put in. Pro Edencom players put in to take Arshat back. It's actually kind of wild. We thought it was impossible. They did it. If Vanguard gets Trig faction and Trig style weapons, the player continuity of Trigs, hands down, we know who will dominate. I think that, like, I don't think it's coming yet, but it is very much played out where, like, one of the things that Vanguard's going to do is raid Triglavian arcologies on storm planets, right? Like, you can't... They've shown so much, and they've talked about it so much. The idea of like bioadapted soldiers in arcologies, like that's just, it's got to be a thing eventually. Probably not original in the beginning, but it is absolutely something eventually. It wasn't a scripted event. I will fight for that till the end of time. Do we even finish? Do we finish the? We didn't even fit. We barely started the video. I'm sorry. Let's get back to that. I expect that they'll save the Trigs for an expansion. Yeah, exactly. Once they get, I think that like this idea of like wreckage sites, Upwell versus Vanguard on temperate and barren planets are going to be like phase 1. And when they want to get into more extreme, crazier environments, then you have space stations, Triglavian arcologies, Gita 4-4. You know, you've got all these different other kinds of environments that would work for other things. But for now, for the basic extraction shooter kind of piece of it, they're doing like wreckages on barren, temperate, and I think lava planets. Oh no, is there lagging going on? Give me Vanguard level on one of those huge trick structures inside of Pochman, and my life is yours, Fenris. Well, have you guys seen, like, there's the video. Hold on, let me. There is Eve online afternoon. Eating calm. What was their name? What was their name? It was ASMR, right? Yeah, ASMR. Oh no, that's not. Shoot, hold on. Triglavian? Recording? Footage? Oh no. Where is it? Now I can't remember what ASMR stands for. Where? What? Ah! I found it. This isn't it though. This is the wrong one. Here we go. Here we go. There's the arcology. And there's the drone defenders. So yeah, like they've teased this. They teased this when they're excited about Vanguard. Like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I do wonder if Concord would actually share those blueprints for those bastions. I think it's going to be a whole, like, we'll have to see how bastions break out. All right, let's keep going with what they say.
Any sneak previews?
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty widely known in the, particularly in the Dust Vet fan base, that after the events of Dust 514, the warlords were all killed off in something called the Purge, and a bunch of the warclanes went into hiding, and they were kind of driven from the galaxy, and certainly robbed of all their power and influence, and that's the way it was for a long time, and the warclanes were sort of weak and in hiding, and then the Deathless came along and chose a select few of the greatest minds that they could find in this particular data bank, and the people that they chose turned out to be these incredibly powerful, intelligent, resourceful Thanatos agents who are like Amarian assassins, basically.
Whoa! I hope, wait, okay. I hope that he just got two things confused. Because this is also something, this is also something that was posted in the thing. So now that he has said that word, I want to really key in on this. This is the post that was posted in Eve Universe Show by Beardy Wizard. It says, for the weak, immortality offers little advantage. Darkness was closing around the world clones. Our destiny was in ruins. We would live long enough to see ourselves forgotten. I could claim I believed we had been given another chance. That would be untrue. We were lost, but in New Eden, survival does not go unnoticed, and we had survived. The Deathless found our databanks. They reached inside and recovered minds that they believed would help them spread their chaos. They did not understand what they had awakened. Thanatos Assassin, Khanid Warriors, Warlords. They released those we now call the Lords of Avalon. These are minds incapable of servitude, drawn from Amarian traditions, selected for discipline, for faith. They did not accept the system imposed upon them. They studied it, tested it, searching for its edges. We found a way out, a way to deploy without oversight, but there was a cost. Death, when it came, was final. We used it anyway. So that's weird. Again, I don't know where this text comes from, so I don't know how official it is, but the key here is this word Thanatos. Because in Templar 1, right, we had the Templars, which were the elite Amarian foot soldiers. And that's true that they had been chosen from some of, well, both the best but also the worst of Amarian society. A lot of the original Templars were actually prisoners that got like basically reprogrammed to be Templars. Templar 1 was a prisoner. But he was like a faithful prisoner, if that makes sense. So this idea that like the Amar were key to the original war clones is important, but Thanatos Assassins is something very, very particular. Hold on a second. Let me Eve Online Templar 1. Why not? Hold on. So if we open up Templar 1. Oh, okay. Hold on. We open up Templar 1 and let it load. Then we can go Thanatos. How do we spell Thanatos? Thanatos. The reason why I pronounce it this way is because in the actual book on tape, hold on. Am I crazy? Oh, okay. I just have to spell it all the way out. So in Templar 1, this showing it? Yeah. In Templar 1, we see Thanatos. So Thanatos is a Concord project, right? This is Concord talking about what's going on. You know, this is their mandate to protect the rights of civilizations to grow and prosper, to preserve the surviving sovereignties of the Dark Ages, to serve justice to immortals who abuse the privileges of everlasting life, to safeguard the mortals of the worlds from dangers that originate in space, and to prevent Empyrean technology from causing the destruction of humanity. That's why I say that Concord is the enemy of a true enemy of all Empyreans. But Thanatos, it says, okay, so Tara Rushi had yet to speak, though it is clear from the projections floating around her that she was weighing both arguments carefully. All matters trivial and historic were decided in Concord by a simple majority vote. She became the tiebreaker. If we were to proceed, how do you propose to stop it? We use Thanatos. 3 of them are already searching for the broker. So Thanatos is a group of people. 3 of them are already searching for the broker, which we're not rabbit holing right now, okay? And then he goes, we'll create a 4th. One with this explicit purpose, to do whatever is necessary to converge the empires, or to convince the empires to cease their efforts. So then we go later in the book, and we see that in the eyes only investigation of Empress Jamil's Zera effect superweapons. So this is, of course, the events of Empyrean Age, when Jamil shows up and blows up the Elder Fleet. It says, T-TAC IPZ was under Thanatos surveillance at the time of the Apocrypha event and reported identical solar anomalies before disappearing. So Thanatos is like a intel spy information network by Concord, right? And then if we keep going, we see what? Why? Here we go. It is not known why the Terrans were stockpiling the material. Before its destruction, Thanatos discovered that drones manufactured autonomously within the station processed the technology to move the material from its source. So once again, Thanatos is being used to like spy on things, right? Specifically about understanding the Apocrypha event. And then it says, Thanatos observed low orbit area where the weapon was fired remains symptomatic of dark matter collisions, observable just outside of the event horizon of black hole. So once again, Thanatos is collecting information, and especially things that are like super secret, right? But then we see subsequent Thanatos units confirm that all 10 Apocrypha locations contain the same prevalent trace residue. So Thanatos is basically individual spy networks and people that they can make. Remember, he said we'll make a fourth, right? So his whereabouts are currently unknown, but he's been designated Tier 1 surveillance target for Thanatos. They're talking about Marcus Yor. Don't worry about it right now. So they're saying that, okay, this guy's also being spied on by Thanatos. Still about the Apocrypha event, more or less. But then later on, the Thanatos program has revealed disturbing developments with Mordu's Legion. Remove neural scanning from Moria Mordu during an agent encounter detected trace evidence of degenerative encephalopathy, brain damage. Although a deeper scan is necessary to confirm the founder's outward personality is consistent with patients suffering from the onset of psychosis, this revelation, combined with the history of characterized by remorseless bloodshed and the mercenary trade, supports DED's consensus that Mordu's Legion is currently among the most dangerous and influential factions in New Eden. Yeah, good thing to note that like Mordu is going insane. That is a good point to note in all of this. But again, this is still just kind of investigative, right? But we see later on in the story, Thanatos also learned that Mordu has been in contact with Harakan Oriitsu, deposed Kalikiota CEO. Since then, he had been preparing a mixed squad of soldiers, assassins, and technicians in Mox raids and fake research outposts consistent with Ishikone contractor design, suggesting that a raid somewhere in the Caldari state is imminent. Thanatos has been ordered to learn the target of this raid, determine the extent of Harakan's involvement with Mordu's Legion, and find any connections to Ishikone, and access the dangers of Typus Heth and Caldari Providence Directorate. Remember the whole thing about how Yanni Sarateu, was it Yanni? No, it was, yeah, right? Well, there's the Sylphi and Sisters of Eve meeting that references stuff, but there's another one too. Hold on. Can you guys hear the crashing outside? I'm so sorry. I think it's the garbage truck. Hold on. Now we gotta now I gotta keep hunting. If Mordu go insane, they can't operate the LP store. No, what I'm saying is Moria Mordu, the head of the Mordu's Legion, is insane. Like, that is actually a whole thing about his lore, is that like the cloning process was not quite right because he was too old for it, and so he's kind of degenerating, and he wears funny hats because of this, and that's something that's really played into in Templar 1. But hold on, there's the meeting between Yanni. Is it the Glittering Streets? I don't think so. Hold on. Let's search Yanni. Is it Particle Tracks? Yes. So this is isn't there a thing about Mordu here too? Yeah. Oh yeah. This is about the virtualities. This is the development of the attack battle cruisers and the fact that the empires were using virtualities more and more. Right. Start with the price. I recently liquidated some interest in the planetary development field. As you know, I've always had an interest in capsular infrastructure, but generally as a means to an end. It was the same this time with the handover of the deal with the Interboss. Oh yeah, because that's Poco's. So this is Yanni, the head of Upwell. Don't they reveal later on that it's Mordu? Who's the person that they're talking to? No. Damn it. Now I can't remember who Yanni's talking to here. Anybody remember? I thought this was Mordu. Either way, the point is, if we keep going with Thanatos, though, we find that Thanatos is actually a person. Or is in this Thanatos directive with immediate effect. Primary orders: capture prototype soldier technology intact, return physical specimen to ULI, eliminate all witnesses and interfering parties, operational restrictions, none. Secondary directive: destroy all remaining technology, end directive. So from this point on, one of the people that is operating, the Thanatos report arrived from Pike's Landing and the remaining meeting agenda was instantly cleared. Right, so Thanatos, for the final act of this game, or of the book, is a person, right? Thanatos stood and brushed herself off, admiring her work. The knife placement was perfect. Basically it's this super spy assassin that works for Concord. That's my point. So the Thanatos Project are these spies that Concord has been deploying in order to get their information, and was critical. That was like Concord's eyes on the ground during the Templar 1 events. So it's odd that is their own, like, to think of that as a war clone, although this could be something like a later development or whatever. But I don't think that there's any good explanation as to why Thanatos would be considered a Marian. It was a setback, but she was insatiably eager to please her masters. Once those tasks were complete, she would trek back to the colony perimeter, resume her hunt. That would feel wonderful, like sheer bliss. She couldn't wait. Yeah, she's got like stuff in her head that basically forces her to want to do what Concord tells her to do. Thanatos didn't realize, nor would she be concerned if she had, that Concord had just committed an act of war against the Galente Federation. Exciting stuff. And then the echo of her angry words reverberated through the spherical chamber as a life freed from Thanatos appeared suddenly. The immortal soldier. Oh, yeah, okay, immortal. The immortal soldier she was tracking. Oh, no, because that's who she's tracking. So Thanatos is tracking the immortal soldier. So just a few meters from in front of her, holding a flare overhead. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I like this. Don't bring up Thanatos, man. Thanatos shouldn't be one of the war clones, I don't think, unless something really weird happened. But it also doesn't make really good sense that Thanatos would be a Marian, because that's the Templars. I feel like they're confusing Templars with Thanatos. But, you know, we'll see. Maybe.
And so that group of people are the people that kind of began the current uprising that's led to Avalon and led to the Walklands breaking free from the Deathless and starting the game. So I'll go into a bunch more detail about how that happened and the characters involved and things like that, but that's the high level of it.
What are you expecting from Fanfest?
It's just very weird for them to even bring up Thanatos. I feel I might be wrong, but they need to make sure that they've read the book.
Expected to come away with.
I think so. I'm in the Discord a lot, talking to people about stuff, so I constantly getting ideas. I think
I don't even think that that's necessary. I think that it could very well be that once they capture the Templars, because like, okay, so at the very end of Templar 1, where is it? Wait, what is this? Hold on. What's this? Instrum production facility. I'm impressed by what you built here, Mordu said, if it's not somewhat unsettled. Lurking in the shadows, drones followed him everywhere. First the broker, now Heth. Men said, I trust machines more than people now. Do you really mean that? Do you? So Men's is connected to Mordu, which, of course, Ishikone. We've kind of played into that already before. Wait, what's this? So Kana technology, eh? Does it work? Not if you're concerned with her well-being, then yes. The scientist said her wrist was exposed, prominently displaying the tattoo of the Tempest Dragonars. The Amar use it to reclaim their inmates, but in the right hands it can be used to walk into any part of her mind to extract information, usually at the expense of leaving the victim ruined. Okay. Otacon, dressed in nothing but undergarments, sat with her arms bound behind her, her head listed to one side, her eyes unfocused, and a blank expression on her face. Holy shit, I forgot all about this. Heth stared at her for a few moments. So your mask is now... Okay, so that's Heth. Now I gotta know, like, how did Hadakon go from here to being rescued again? I don't know? Man, there's so many characters here that are in Eve Universe or Eve Galaxy Conquest. And where is it? Where's Life Giver? Am I... Hold on. Let's go all the way back to the end. Yeah, this is... Oh, okay. The afterword. No. Yeah, wait a minute. Where is the doctor? Oh, I guess it's not the epilogue. Where is it? There's a whole thing. Where is it? There's a whole thing. I'm so sorry. There's a thing about the doctor. Who eventually becomes, I think, the Life Giver. Man. Wait. Here it is. Here it is. Gable. Okay, great. Yeah, Gable. I think that's the doctor, right? How's our patient doing? Stabilized for now, though I don't know how much I had to do with it. His anatomy is incredibly resilient. He trusts me. He fully understands that we can't help him, until we learn more about him, but there's one concern I have. What's that? The entire hippocampus and thalamus have been replaced by a cybernetic implant I've never seen before. There's so this is it. So it's Men's Repala. So again, Ishikone working with who would eventually become the life giver to understand the clones. My colleague Raleigh is very impressed with your background. You two are going to be working closely together. His contributions to Ishikone are too numerous to count, but first and foremost, he's an engineer. The best there is. Yeah. So this is, so in the end, Templar 1, the guy, is brought in by Ishikone, and the doctor, who would eventually become the life giver, is kind of given the opportunity to work on her. And that's the last, on him rather. And that's the last thing we knew from that. Okay.
This job, because of the history of Dust and because of the sort of, the depth of lore that exists within Eve, it's like, it's mostly a listening role, It's like you're mostly just listening to people that know more than you about everything that you're doing. So it would be pretty silly, I think, to not pay attention. So Fanfest is just an opportunity to be exposed to a bunch of people that care the most about this universe. So I'll just be talking to people.
Is that who you hope to meet?
That's who, if you're somebody who knows a lot about Eve lore and cares about war clones and what's going to happen to them and what their culture is like.
Well, if you see him, tell him to get a hold of me.
And what you think.
I'm happy to chat.
Give your opinion to me. Come find me. I'll be wearing a hat, ready to listen.
Who's this guy?
What are you taking to Fanfest?
JS.
Yeah, nothing interesting, probably, sadly. Yeah. Just, definitely a range of hats. That's a good one. A couple of pairs of trousers, some underpants. A couple of branded t-shirts, apparently, are essential. And some nice aftershave.
What are you getting up to, aside from your presentations?
I'm going to be talking to some of the Eve narrative people. I'm probably going to go for
none of this is going to be that useful from here on out.
Top of the World, I think it's called. That was really fun last year. I'm doing some interviews with some of the press and talking about the game and what we're working on and things like that. So that's
I probably will.
Really fun and cool. It was fun last time. And I'm also going to be running. We're going to have some machines at Fanfest with Vanguard on, and we're going to be letting people play. So
I mean, it's not impossible that they used an Amarian to make one of the Thanatos agents. It's just the Thanatos agents aren't war clones. At least they weren't in Templar 1. That's the thing that I keep being hung up on.
I'll be there, like, chaperoning that and understand the game and answer questions for people.
By the way, does the Exordium open up tomorrow? I'm docked in Uli. Well, I'll put it this way. According to the original dev blog about Exordium should already be open because they said it would open before FanFest, and today is technically day 1 of FanFest. So theoretically speaking, they could open it tomorrow morning and have it be half true. Other than that, it's all kind of up in the air because, like I said, they did say before FanFest, and technically speaking, FanFest has in many ways already begun.
Along with CCP. And if you guess what his real name is?
He's changed now to Cross
Yeah.
Vader.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. So I just doxed him then.
Doxed him.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
To
Who?
Cross Vader.
Oh, really?
Crossfeeder?
Oh, damn. So I just doxed him then.
Doxed him.
Yeah. Oh, well. He did it to himself.
That's true. What is CCP? What is this CCP that we're talking about?
He's changed now to Cross Vader.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. So I just doxed him then.
Doxed him.
Yeah. Oh, well. He did it to himself before I did.
Fenris.
Final question. Any tips for a FanFest first timer?
Yeah, don't be afraid of talking to, with devs. I think, like I said, all of us are there to talk to you guys. So don't be afraid to walk up to a group of people having a chat and sort of insert yourself politely into the conversation. People came up to me constantly when I was there last year. It was great, and I've got some really interesting insights. Something that you might think is kind of fairly standard about the way that you play Eve or the way that you want to play Vanguard is actually going to be super interesting to us. And we're really interested and happy to talk to. That's why we're there, is to listen and talk to people. So yeah, please don't be afraid of coming and talking to anybody. Even Hilmar, you know, people just walked up to him and just chat to him, and he's happy to talk.
Absolutely.
To everybody. It's yeah, that's why we do it.
All right, CCPGS, enjoy your Fanfest.
Thanks very much. Why aren't you coming?
It's too fat.
All right. So my advice for FanFest, especially for those of us who aren't going, wake up early if you want to watch the stuff. Especially the Eve keynote is going to be a big one. You can make sure that you have a guy docked up either in Jita or Uli, whichever one you feel might be the most exciting or relevant to you. And make sure to check out my streams tomorrow and Saturday for all of our FanFest, coverage. We also have next Tuesday, which is the date that's been set for Sylphie and Dalbel's trial. So that could be very exciting and a potential new lore event. And then, of course, Thursday, so a week from today, if you're watching this live, will be the final week of Warpath, the Capsuleer Day event, which means an extension of the track and bonus rewards, etc., etc. So this weekend, make sure to be at the Fenris Creations live stream on Twitch to get your pod skin and other goodies, and check out my streams in order to get my reactions, and kind of we can go through the process of crunching down everything we learn and see what it's going to be relevant to us with the new expansion and the future roadmap of how things are going to be, because we're probably going to get a new roadmap of some sort, etc., or at least at least part of the roadmap filled out. Either way, it's going to be very, very exciting. I hope to see you guys all there. And then, you know, this is probably the last good week for you to do. Well, this week is the whatever. Do the event, get the event tracks, get your event rewards. And today, I think that we're going to just do a little bit of faction warfare, because that leads into, or that's from, we go into the news. Which one of these is it? Not that one. Yes, Arzad 2. So Brutor and Starkmanir are trying to rename Arzad 2, which is the Starkmanir Prime, so the home world of the Starkmanir, or that, well, it is the system, the planet that was formerly known as Starkmanir Prime. And if we go into the faction warfare map, we will learn that I have no idea where it is. So let's find out. Hold on, it's Arzad? An object in the sky that shows... Wait, what? Creator video has some gameplay, by the way. So I'm not sure how much. Okay, we can check it out. You're talking about the Vanguard videos? Wait, Warclone lore revealed? What is this? Hold on. I just realized that there's a link to this. I don't think we've seen this one.
In terms of the lore, what can Vanguard fans expect from Fanfest?
Oh.
They can expect to hear about the history of...
Okay, literally what we already did. What are we talking about? Building worlds? More than testing? Uplink podcast? This one's 20 minutes. I haven't checked it out yet. This one might be good. The second to last video. The creator video. Oh. Action. Oh no, it's Loru.
What do you think?
Yep.
Who am I?
My God, if I get demonetized because of all of the background music in this fucking video, in these videos, I'm gonna be so ticked.
My name's Loru. Do I look at this one or that one?
Andy. That's what everyone calls me.
Warlock Industries.
Somebody think anything will happen in game during FanFest? I don't think, like, okay, Exordium might open, but you got to remember, they know for a fact that their biggest fans are currently in the auditorium with them. And so it would be super shitty if Fenris Creations to do some sort of big thing that's happening in that exact moment that can't be done later. That's why I still think that like the setup of the trial of Sylphie is kind of the big, like, if there's going to be the Sylphie's plan, there's been a lot of complaints and frustration around this current story arc in the fact that like Sylphie gets caught on false pretenses, the Syndicate guys get slaughtered. That seems kind of silly that they're going into these traps. There seems to be a lot of mistakes being made by Sylphie and her boys. But she did say that might as well not even set up a trial. So the idea is that if there is like a second shoe to drop, if there's a setup to all of this, if there's like a Joker style reveal that she got caught on purpose, that would come on Tuesday. So like, I think Exordium might open just because they said it would open before FanFest. But I don't expect anything too exciting happening like at FanFest, except for an announcement that might change the markets on something. Like, for instance, in a previous year at FanFest, they've talked about how they're going to change battleships and tier-aside battleships. This is actually where I made a lot of money, because they mentioned that they're going to tier-aside the battleships. So I bought a bunch of Dominixes because I knew that Dominixes were just going to become more expensive because they're going to increase the mineral cost of it. That's just one example of kind of the like in-game impact that a FanFest announcement can be. But no, FanFest is very much about setting up the next expansion and what happens next. Rather, if something happens live at FanFest, it's going to be at FanFest, like a broadcast getting cut in. Maybe Alexander Ducasi may have something to say. Maybe the president of the Federation might have something to say. Maybe the Deathless will hack it in again or whatever. But like it being a thing in game, less likely. That said, in a previous year, the Capsuleer Day event was tied to the Smuggler Rings, and FanFest triggered a second phase of the event. So that could theoretically happen, but it's much less set up than it was that year. That time, it was very obvious that only half of the event was out yet. And so like the second half made more sense. With this year, it's much less set up for there to be a second half of the event. That said, there is still that premium token that we've never seen. I think that it's going to be the reward for the final week. So I'm going to say tamper your expectations, but it's not impossible.
My name is Blackwell. I'm a Twitch content creator, YouTube creator.
Why I'm here? I like shooting. I like pew-pew games and stealing people's stuff.
I was brought to here by CCP.
Where is this being shown? You said that there's stuff shown. Here we go.
Because of its connectivity to other games.
Oh yeah,
that's something that's never been done.
Well, that's a Fortizarn space, right? That would be a Fortizarn space
because of its connectivity to.
Yeah, that looks like a Fortizar that's in orbit.
To other games, that's something that's never been done on this scale, to my knowledge. That is not necessary for you to actually.
Yeah. Fenris is seemingly great at selling tokens. Sold 20 million USD worth of tokens for a little bit. Not that kind of token, but yes. Yeah, I don't see anything too great there. I do now want to watch that other video though. Let's go ahead and watch it.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Vanguard Uplink podcast. I am your host, CCP Goretz, and joining me once again is game director CCP Collins in all cameras. Today,
my tinfoil prediction is that Plex is being phased out for an EVE coin as a premium currency or transferred over to. They have talked about like bi-directional Plex before, but again, I think that just has a better place in Frontiers, and like a lot of logistical infrastructure work would have to be done to make it so that all of the Plex that currently exists is tied into that system. So I think it's just going to be two different things. And also at this point, any attempt to tie crypto into the main EVE Online universe, Tranquility, would be seen as a betrayal by the player base. As Hilmar has said, NFTs not for tranquility. That doesn't mean that they wouldn't do it. And I'm sure that deep down in Hilmar's dark, poisoned heart, he would love there to be bi-directional Plex. But again, I think that his outlet for that is just make Frontiers as good as it can be and hope that it proves the concept. And if it ever happens to EVE Online, it's going to be because they got dragged along behind it, as it were.
Today, we're going to be talking about our most recent VIP test, how the feedback from that gets computed here in CCP London. We're going to talk a little bit about dust.
Yes.
And
I'm allergic to it.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But and more of your questions. So let's roll into it.
Yeah.
The first thing I'd like to do is cough. So we have just had.
I feel that so deep in my soul. Oh my god.
A VIP playtest.
We have.
Round 2.
2 VIP playtests.
2 VIP tests, spaced apart by 3.
20 million reasons if it was a term of the sale is what I'm worried about. That is, so that sale, that part of the sale, again, is directly tied to Frontiers. They're banking on Frontiers doing well, which, by the way, all signs indicate it probably is. It's doing a lot better than I would have predicted. I'll put it that way, even at this early phase. So it's just, it was there. It was, the other company, Pearl Abyss's way of kind of it's effectively the equivalent of having stock in EVE Frontiers.
3-4 weeks?
I think it was 3 weeks.
Just let us convert Plex to EVE token and token to Plex. It's simple. It's not that simple though, because tokens have to be minted. So there's like the reason why tokens are valuable is because there's a certain amount of work that needs to go into the creation of the token. So you'd have to do all of that for Plex, which has its own cost, and Plex has already been paid for. So there'd be this huge upfront cost to actually binding Plex to EVE coin, even if you wanted to. And again, Fenris knows very sure that that idea would be absolutely hated by people. And so they would literally, like, if they wanted to do that, they would have to have Frontiers basically prove itself and get to a point where people are complaining that they can't turn their Plex into EVE coin for Frontiers. Then and only then would CCP be able to get away with that kind of conversion, I would say. No need to bind Plex to EVE coin? Well, you just said convert. If you want to convert the two, there needs to be EVE coin to use, or like to bind it to. These are from the creator video. Thank you. So this, I mean, not much really to see here, except for maybe some new UI and this new structure. There, you know, this does feel more like they're working on like the procedurally developed terrain, and this is like a point of interest. And then the other image. Yeah, kind of the same thing. Like this feels much more like a procedurally generated map as opposed to a bespoke crafted map, which could be good in like being able to explore this facility. At least good for replayability and variety.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
How did it go?
Went really well. Like the purpose of the test was get people in, get playing the game, like find some bugs, unearth some things we haven't been able to find, fall through holes in the map we hadn't identified. And starting giving us some early feedback on things. The first test was we go through like a hardening phase where we finish most of the work, but we start doing polishing, balancing, and bug fixing. So the first test was at the start of hardening, which was tell us all the things we need to harden, find all the things, give us your feedback, and then a test at the end of hardening to go, here's all the things that we hardened based on your feedback. Can you give us an idea of whether we've
just make EVE token a buyable item on Nest. Players pay USB to buy Plex. CCP mints token. CCP sells token for Plex. It's simple. I mean, you're right. That could be a way to do a transition. But again, that predicates on EVE Frontiers being popular and people wanting to convert their resources from EVE Online to EVE Frontiers and CCP being interested in letting them. Right? Those are the things that need to happen for that to happen.
Fixed it in a way that you would have liked. This responding to feedback. And kind of validating that approach, really.
Okay, and so obviously this was separated by 3 weeks, as you say. Yeah. So we've talked a bit about the messaging to the community and how that's going to change going forward. Tell us about the new method of talking to the fans.
Yeah, well, we tried 2 methods, didn't we?
We did.
We first tried a PDF, basically explaining what the test was about, where we wanted you guys to.
How else will CCP get USD 50 million by October? Why does CCP need $50 million by October? Am I missing something? Did I miss a piece? The only 50 million number I've ever seen was because that was what was given to them to make Frontiers. Is there a $50 million axe hanging over CCP's head? Or Frontier, Fenris's? Is that, I don't know if that means that they need to have $50 million by October. I'll have to look at that, but really interesting. I don't have a good answer for that. I don't know. I would have to $50 alone from PA, 50 million rather. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. It's due this year. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. Hopefully they do.
To all go in and play, where the content was, and the things that we didn't really need any feedback on because we hadn't worked on them. That PDF wasn't largely read. Thank you.
I've seen the numbers.
Yeah, no. So there was a lot of confusion as to people not knowing what they were testing, where they needed to focus because it wasn't a fully complete map. It was still in progress, but there were areas that we wanted players to focus on. So we took a larger swing at it the second time we recorded.
It makes me wonder what happened to the previous $50 million for Frontiers.
The video, and I hear that went down much better, really well, and it's a lot more referenceable to kind of be slung around as an answer to questions on what am I looking at, what am I testing. Just go and watch the video.
No, absolutely. And then it seems like basic, but we also put patch notes out for this one as well.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's something to do with low bypass to CCP. Look, man, Trader Friend of Oz said that they'll ask the question to Hilmar at the trade dinner. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a lot more information about all these kinds of things by the end of the weekend. Right now is so much just speculation. I could just only guess and yeah, it's almost not even worth it.
You went
meaty, like 5 pages of patch notes, right?
Yeah, you went proper macho man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, some beefy patching notes, which also helps. I think it helps people see that we are listening and can make those changes. Which leads me into a bevy of feedback that we've had.
I mean, I think Hilmar has been killing it this last couple of weeks. So I feel like Hilmar probably feels pretty good about himself right now. I mean, they did just get, wasn't it $20 million from Google? So that's a big chunk too.
We can. So let's go back to, you said that we were testing a very specific thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things I see pop up on Discord is like, why release just a snippet that you want us to test as opposed?
I'm sorry, I gotta go back at this and see what this is. What is this? What is this? What is that tool? Is that Discord? It doesn't look like Discord. Is it Discord? No, it does look like Discord. It is Discord. That's not a view of Discord I've seen.
I see pop up on Discord is like, why release just a snippet that you want us to test as opposed to just the whole game, the latest version of that?
Yeah, well, I think some of it pairs up with where we're at in development as well. So I think it's worth noting, like, what we wanted people to test is what we'd been working on and what we prioritized first. There are 2 development cycles before we get to alpha in July, and the first.
So alpha is in July. Hold on. So June. So okay, we are currently on May 14th. The Capsuleer Day event ends on the 28th. Which makes June wide open. And before, they did Equinox, and then a couple weeks later, or a month later, they did Solstice, which was the Vanguard test. I don't know if this means that either military campaigns will not begin when the expansion lands, but will start later. There will be more than one military campaign active at a time. Military campaigns are shorter than we expected, i.e. less than a month. Or the expansion is later than we thought, because that's a whole month between the window opening for the release of the expansion and when the Vanguard Alpha is ready. And if the Vanguard Alpha is part of the military campaign, I would expect, now that they've said this, I actually think that it's going to be the one where it's like, I think the expansion might come out in June, and then the first military campaign actually begin in July. Maybe it'll begin a little bit earlier. Like if they come out with the expansion in like June 25th, then that makes it 1 week away from July. So probably something like that, where like the expansion comes out, things settle, and then the first military campaign starts a week later. Or even the military campaign starts, but then the Vanguard component of it jumps in a week or two later. All these are possibilities, but it's good to know that they are targeting July for the Vanguard playtest. Results of a military campaign won't play out until next expansion? Probably. I mean, they have mentioned stuff about that, where it's like, if you complete the objectives of the military campaign, that opens up their result for the next expansion. They could always create a more flexible thing depending on the tools that they've done. But yes, they've set that as the pace. So that's why I think that military campaigns will actually be basically an entire season. So it could be most of the expansion. But again, this is all speculation. Come back tomorrow and then Saturday, and we'll see what we have to say about it. I hope we will be boots on the ground in a Vanguard role. For what? For the military campaign? Yeah, I mean, Vanguard's going to tie into the military campaign. That's what they said. Last I heard, it was delayed until next year. Yeah, I don't know why they're calling it alpha. So the big open test and what they said was they were going to make Vanguard a permanent thing this summer. That's the part that got delayed. It was supposed to be this summer. Vanguard goes into open beta and stays open from that point on. But then a few months ago, they delayed that. And so this summer is just going to be a play test that ties into military campaigns. And then this winter is going to be a play test that ties into Steam, the Steam launcher integration. And then next year will be the Vanguard's now open and won't go back down again, which was supposed to be this summer, but that's the part that got delayed. Correct. Repeating what FC Okami said isn't speculation. It can change. I just wanted to make sure to clarify, like, you're right. You said that because that's what they have said. But I'm not locking down anything until I hear what they have to say over the next 2 days. I'm just going to say that. CCP has also said that we were going to get pirate implants in 2 weeks, and it took them another year. So I'm just saying, it's the kind of thing that I flag in my mind as being the kind of thing that might change. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah, you could say that, Jeff.
Basically, the first half of that was focusing on building out the base map, building up some example POIs, and focusing purely on the gunplay. So when we wanted people to go in, it's just like, right, we've overhauled how the gunplay works. Go in and tell us, does it feel better to shoot the game? And we've made a new map from the ground up. It's not finished, but go in.
And we've even said that, where like the previous playtests were basically a vertical slice of the game with some later expansions. So that's kind of what he's saying, like a single map, single experience, single weapon, and then they've kind of grown from there. That's fair, just being nitpicky over being told I'm speculating. Correct. You're right. You are not speculating. You are quoting Okami. I am speculating that Okami may have also have hedged what he said. I appreciate the clarity, though.
Does it feel like you're on a planet in Eve? Does it connect to some of the things that you like, it to visually connect for? There's a citadel in the sky, there's a strong upworld presence,
there's a citadel up in the sky.
Things that you like, it to visually connect for, there's
So he says that right as that Fortizar is there. So that is 1,000% of Fortizar flying in space. Whatever.
Citadel in the sky, there's a strong upworld presence, you're fighting Mordu's Legion. All of these things feel great in how they're represented.
And this is clearly a Mordu's Legion bunker filled with Mordu's Legion clones with little diamonds over the head. That's kind of neat. I think there's also a new model for the gun. This looks a lot better. I like this map. I want to play in this game. I definitely do.
And go to these example POIs.
Ooh. Okay, so here we go. We got the command block. We've got a main rec. Because remember the whole story, they talked about this in a previous episode, that like the story is a wreck happens. This triggers Upwell and Mortis Legion to attempt to secure the territory. And then at some point, the Vanguard catch wind about this. And so the Vanguard start appearing and everybody freaks out because the Vanguard are trying to like raid the place. And at a certain point, Mordu brings in backup and eventually the area becomes secure and no longer available. And that's kind of the lifespan of these event sites as they've talked about it. So here we see that there's the main wreck, which would be the ship or whatever, an outer wreck. The Legion compound is here, the command block is over here, and there's a dig site right there. And it does indicate that this site will close in 32 minutes and 56 seconds. There's also a clone bake in the middle, and there is this extraction site, and the extraction site is listed as closing in 56 seconds. So it's very possible that you could have to... oh, no, so then this doesn't necessarily mean the whole map, because this is just at the top. So this extraction point is closing in 32 minutes. This extraction point is closing in 56 seconds.
That we built out. There's going to be, around 7 on the map. We've built 2 of them so far. Go in, fight, shoot, loot, try and get out, and tell us, we want this one to feel hard. We want this one to feel relatively easy. Does this one feel hard? Does this feel easy? If not, then we'll dial it up. And that's generally what we did, from between the first test and the second test, was listening to a lot of that feedback and kind of dialing things up, dialing things back. But like in terms of presenting the whole game, I think that question really is probably within the context of where we were with Operation Nemesis and the content that we had in the game there versus what we've got now and what we're presenting. I think it's worth noting the difference that we've made internally and what we're projecting externally as well. Operation Nemesis back in September, that was pre-alpha. We're now making the alpha of the game, and we are building up, and we have to build up quite a lot of things from the ground up. Operation Nemesis was it was kind of coming to the end of that pre-alpha approach. It was lots of experiments, lots of prototypes, lots of ideas, but nothing that was ever really at a full shippable quality or what you'd consider a fully polished, ready to release. There were lots of different prototypes and ideas, and so when we came off the back of that and got a lot of feedback that the gunplay wasn't really feeling quite right, the maps weren't really feeling completed, there were a lot of incomplete systems. We had a lot of really cool ideas, but not ever to a quality level, and a lot of people were just bouncing off of it. They're like, this is too early, I'll maybe come back later, or this doesn't feel good enough. So it's like, okay, alpha needs to be release ready. Everything that we make needs to look and feel finished. So we need to start from the ground up in a lot of places, building a new map to the way that we want to build maps and how we want to lay them out around this new structured mode.
See? New map with the new way that we want to build maps, which, remember, they've been working on these kind of procedurally maps, which I know some people like to complain about that, but that's ultimately going to be the way it works. Hold on a second. Just 1 second. I do want to, real quickly. Aw, it's a Zoe. Hey, Zoe. Like the stream for the puppers. Yes. I've been posting some new videos of Zoe on the Decanted channel as well.
And the gunplay with a new weapon built up, right? And it means that some of the stuff that we had in pre-alpha hasn't fully made it over. And it doesn't mean that they're dead. They're certainly not. We still want to build back up to that. But we had to really... I don't want to say the word reset, but it kind of feels like that. We really had to take some steps back and kind of go, right, we're looking at a lot of the complaints that we got from people returning and new. We had, I think, over 30,000 people turn up for Operation Nemesis. So looking at all of that feedback.
30,000 people for Operation Nemesis is actually really, really good. That's way more than I would have predicted.
Looking at all of the, opinions that we got from people who just came in and bounced off or tried to stick with it. We needed to take some step backs and build back up from the core. We needed to build that gunplay, we needed to build better maps, and we needed to add more tension and difficulty and challenge to the experience. And that's really what we're doing, and that's what we're presenting now. What was pre-alpha was, and we will build back up to some of those ideas and experiments that people really got on with. But we did have to start and build from the ground up again in a lot of places, and this is what your testing is.
So nail the core first.
Oh, 100% nail that. I think before this is anything, it needs to be a good shooter, and that was the first thing we wanted to concentrate on. And then we wanted to add more structure to the mode itself. Leaning more strongly into that kind of deploy, raid POIs, adding actually stricter POIs to the world that are more contained, better looting, which we're working on now in that second development cycle as well, and extracting, just building in the higher stakes and high tension that a lot of players told us were missing from the experience. Is kind of...
Well, that looks violent.
Needs to be there. It's befitting of a game set within EVE Online. Undocking, going out and doing your business and trying to get back and dock before you die is, a large spirit of that. So deploying down to the surface and trying to extract before you get killed, that spirit we want to be held there, and it needs to feel tense. It needs to feel like there's things at stake, and that largely wasn't there come Operation Nemesis. So that's what we're building into this now.
Nice. Between Nemesis and now, obviously there's been some time to make some changes, but this VIP test that we've done it was only really 3 weeks to take those like reported, we don't like this, and make the changes to it. So so how long does it take to make a change in a game like this?
So it's really interesting. So
2 weeks.
In the hardening phase, so you're in a main production phase where there's a plan, right? It's like you're making this and then this and then this and then this. Hardening, there's no plan. It's like, right, we've made the stuff, what needs to be fixed, what needs to be improved. So the time it takes from seeing a comment or a bug or a thread on something in Discord, it's like mainly was our primary source for this. It depends on if it's a bug, we have to replicate it. QA have to go in and play and find that bug, see it again, and then get a lot of information around that about how it occurs, what they were doing before, what they were doing after, and then giving that to a developer and getting that fixed. You can actually get quite a relatively quick turnaround from that. From a piece of feedback, like for example, the inventory space or the ammo scarcity was too much of a problem. That isn't just double it. Double it and check it in. We can't. Sometimes that's just a bit naive to do that. So it's a conversation. You go, right, you bring in a few designers and you bring in a few other people and you go, right, everyone's complaining that ammo scarcity is a big problem. We think it's probably it's tied to the inventory space as well, which a lot of players are complaining about. Let's think of what the best solution is to this. What is the right balance? And we have that discussion. We play around with a few things. We sometimes go too far and have to dial it back, or we don't go far enough. We test it internally a little bit and we go, right, what generally feels about right here? Do we feel that's a good pass? And then let's push that in. And it was, from the early part, that first test of being told there's problems in the balance here, here, and here.
One of the pieces of advice I gave them, the initial gunplay needs to be perfect accuracy, low recoil, 1 or 2 shots per kill. I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that. It definitely needs to feel good. I personally, I don't know. I'm a big fan. Like, the thing that's important to me is movement tech more than shooting, but that's just me. Oh, she left.
Here, having those conversations about how we want to address that and then get it in, and then having that second test and then go, yeah, it felt a lot better. I wasn't feeling like the pinch of ammo was too strong of a problem, and the extra inventory space was allowing me to make better decisions about what I loot and what I, and then we're like, brilliant, cool, we've balanced, find a nice sweet spot. It's not to say that it's perfect, but we've addressed that feedback and it's moving in a positive direction.
So that's a great example of good feedback that you've been able to act upon.
Yeah.
So what sort of good feedback, and what is feedback that we don't really need at this point?
Yeah, well, it's always helpful, like, people giving feedback on the things we want them to give feedback on and test. There was a lot of feedback about, the map feels a bit too empty. And we knew that because we haven't finished the map yet. And there was only gameplay in 2 areas when we're going to have all of these other buildings and all of these ambient enemies moving around and all these...
He's not talking about the maps that we've played. He's talking about the maps, like the one that they just showed with like the Morty's bunker and all that stuff, which we have not played on before, unless you're part of the VIP playtest.
Smaller activities and places. So I think I don't want to say dismiss. We don't want to ever dismiss feedback because you've got to try and understand the reason where it's coming from. But it was easy for us to go, well, look, we don't solve that right now. We weren't planning to solve that right now. That's going to be solved later. What is...
I don't know. I didn't have any problem with the gun not hitting things. Actually, if anything, I found it weird that the recoil had... at first, because I think they eventually fixed it, but like the recoil had like an end point. So I found it, especially for the first few playtests of Vanguard, it was good to just start spraying and let the recoil happen and then aim the recoil in, like dial in the recoil as a way of being accurate. And that doesn't feel good at all. I think that, especially the machine guns, like there's sniper rifles. I think that what you just described is a perfect example of what should be like that Amarian sniper rifle or whatever. But like the main machine gun is kind of a spray and pray kind of thing. If anything, they should probably increase the circle to show you where the spread is, and kind of give in to the idea that there's spread in the initial weapons. But
good feedback is stuff that we're testing. That the gunplay. The gun felt better. I felt like I was more in control of it. I felt more embodied. I didn't feel like I was a gun floating through the space anymore. I felt like I was a person holding that weapon. I think understanding.
Told them that they needed access to all types of weapons early, preferably immediately after starter mission. Yeah, well, yeah, yes. I do remember like the whole crafting system and trying to get the new weapons and all that stuff was a giant pain, especially given the fact that people might prefer one over the other.
Why we've made those changes, which we describe in the video and we wrote in the PDF, and then giving feedback as to how have we achieved those things is really good. I think sometimes as well
I think that to make the tutorial easier, it would just be more close range, because like it's only once you get past mid range that the weapons really start having accuracy issues. The tutorial's job is to make players hooked into the game. I mean, yeah, and also teach the fundamentals. I don't know. That's a big discussion.
we have a vision and we're making a game in a particular way. People can certainly tell us, hey, I don't want you to make this game, but that's not feedback. I can't go away and go, okay, right. In the 3 weeks between those two playtests, we need to completely change the game. That's not what we're going to do. This is the direction that we're moving in. This is what the game that we want to build. So I think sometimes there is some bad feedback about, hey, I wish you'd make another game. That isn't something we can action.
Just spend more time on EVE Online instead of these EVE other projects. Don't do EVE. My advice for EVE Vanguard is to not do EVE Vanguard. Not useful. Not useful feedback.
In that period of time.
No, sure. That is insightful. If you have found this insightful,
yes,
you do be sure to click the subscribe button, which should appear on screen right now. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're going to give you the latest and greatest Vanguard updates as soon as they come through. This is the place to find them, so do be subscribed. In terms of feedback, we are a lean team here.
I think my pushback to you, Jeff, was would be like, shooters have been around for a long, long time, and not all shooters have dialed in accuracy as like a fundamental piece of it. And so like I feel like that's not the thing that necessarily hooks versus not hooks a person. Maybe. But I think that like getting people to part of the tutorial is not just to teach them, not just to hook them, but also to calibrate your idea about how things work. So if the machine guns are going to have recoil and spread, they have to have that experience in the actual tutorial themselves. The biggest thing is just to tune down the incoming damage and make sure they can't run out of ammo, which, if I remember correctly, the tutorial did. I didn't have any complaints about the tutorial myself. I'm just saying, like, first-person shooter, like, unlike EVE Online, it's easier to predict that a person that is getting into Vanguard has already played at least one other first-person shooter. I mean, it's best to always plan as if they are your first-person shooter, but much more than EVE Online, first-person, like, Vanguard can just basically work with the language of first-person shooters to tie into what most players really know. Because the other thing that could bounce off is that if it does seem too easy, or if that super dialed in version of it that you want isn't the fun gunplay, then a lot of proper first-person shooter players they want first-person shooter players to play this game and then not bounce off of it, right? That's what they want to attract. So again, I still think that movement tech and stuff like that ends up being what makes a game feel good or bad. This is also something I talked about, especially with things like, what happened to Concord and Highlander and all, or the high whatever it was, the other games that have come out recently that have been like clowned on. Shooters can do very, very well, Apex Legend, but even like look at what's happening right now in the Death from Above game. Oh God, what is that game called? The shooter, the extraction shooter that like got really big, and then it did like there was a big like blowback because of some stuff with the PSN, I think it was, and then they made it right. Now there's a cape in the game. Oh God, what? Helldiver. Yeah, look at what's happening in Helldiver right now, right? Like Helldiver had a crisis, like they did something wrong. The community turned against them. Then they salvaged that, and the community got on their side. But now, a few months later, the community's mad again because of the fact that they're not doing enough. Like the problem with the shooter community is that it is so powerful. There's so many companies. It's so much money. There's so much money in making a good shooter. But the shooter community is old, jaded, and to a certain extent chuddy. And so they're willing to, there's so much money in making a good shooter, but the community is absolutely unforgiving if they don't like it. And I think that that's the big reason why they delayed it, and now they're only doing a test instead of the open. So that way they can kind of get one more year to polish it down before people really start to have that expectation. But like, if people don't like Vanguard, if the community, if the world turns on Vanguard, it's not going to be because the gun doesn't have enough accuracy in the tutorial. It's going to be the in-session gameplay, because excitement will get people through the tutorial. It is how the game sessions work, and is this something that people feel like they can continue to play for whatever reason? That is going to be the make it or break it. And of course, whether or not it gets labeled as woke will probably be a big piece of it too.
Here in the UK office.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that pretty much everyone is reading that feedback?
Yeah, to some degree. You know, some people are heads down with the stuff that they're making, but we have artists going in and wanting to see if, you know, that we had a lot of great feedback on, you know, one of the things we were testing was what does the map look and feel like? So we had a lot of members of the art team reading that feedback and, you know, seeing if the work that they'd done and the, you know, the hearts that they'd poured into their work, whether that was kind of paying off. It was the same with designers and the engineers that had worked on, you know, and the animators that had worked on the gunplay, and getting that. So a lot of people do, it is a good sounding board. Right, it's very easy to do work and go, I think that looks great, but we're not making the game for, you know, everyone sat here. It would be brilliant if we could make, you know, a successful game with only the team here playing it, but we're making it for everyone else. So to get that feedback and to get that validation in places, but the team also want steering. They want that feedback. They want to know the things that they want to change, and the things that we've gone maybe a bit too far on, or the things that we couldn't necessarily feel out in a you know, an internal playtest. You need a larger scale of people to kind of start to feel that out on a more repetitive basis.
So steering is an interesting tangent because one of the things that we always see in feedback, no matter.
I am recapturing escaped slaves right now in an Eve mission. I think they can beat the woke allegations. I'm just saying, like, that has been undeniably a factor in the last year on whether or not, in particular, shooters do well or have a massive media campaign on Twitter and elsewhere to try to shut it down. Like Marathon is actually a really good example of a game that, like, this mentality is attempted to shut down or to besmirch and malign, but has actually continued to do all right in spite of that, unlike the previous two, Concord and High Guard, High something or other, which made it like 2 weeks before getting shut down.
No matter where we post it, is we get people asking for the big the big dust. And I was reading this morning that, like, you guys never talk about dust, even though I'm pretty sure it comes up in every single podcast that we do.
I think it does, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, like, dust and why that's important for
I gave them some feedback about creating basically dead hostile worlds. I'd love to see planets that are lush and put together, like raiding Templar Temple. Show me some trees and beauty, in my opinion. The Solstice map has a whole jungle. You guys are talking about a nuclear backpack with a nuclear weapon system. I mean, you could definitely do it. And I do like the idea that, like, the signature, like, it'd be easier to see them because of thermal bloom. That'd be cool.
For steering. I mean, in my opinion, we've got some great dust vets in our community, and what we find it really useful for dust vets to do is help us steer the direction of, like, the art, because they spent their time in New Eden. Now it's Vanguard's time in New Eden, but we do appreciate that insight, that games knowledge, that, you know, this fits, this feels like it belongs in New Eden. But of course, the answer we all get is why is this not dust? And I think it's also fair to say this isn't Dust 2.
No, it's not. And there was never the intention. And if anyone's been led to believe that at some point we are making Dust 2, I apologize. This isn't what we're making. We are making Vanguard. It does carry the spirit of a lot of Dust, right? It's a FPS game set in the EVE universe. And the things that people like about it, when you really drill down to it in certain aspects, it isn't just about, Dust wasn't just about a PvP conquest style mode, right? It was about the suit fitting. It was about the connections with EVE. It was about the feeling that you are connected to a game that has other people in it and how the corporations kind of spread those things. The economy of Dust was extremely different to any other FPS game I played as well. And I think those are the things that for me, and for us, and what we're building into this experience is you'll get little visual nuggets and things that we're working through and little kind of Easter eggs here. Whilst the mode is very different in terms of it's not just a PvP conquest mode, it's a PvEVP kind of sandbox that has extraction to it. The spirit of an FPS in the EVE universe, what we want to do with suits and customization and fitting that was integral to Dust, that we want to build into the experience, and that connection to EVE, we want to go even further than Dust ever went. It's not just about OBs. and joining and the social sides of things, I think we can connect these games in a much more meaningful way. And I think that's really what we're aiming for. There's a spirit there. And whenever I talk to people who are just like, hey, why aren't you just remaking Dust? I'm going, well, tell me specifically about the things that you liked in Dust. And it's like, oh, I want PvP. And it's just like, well, there's going to be 17 other players on this map running around if you just want to run around and hunt them. That's also there as well. But we also experimented with PvE modes and PvP modes back in pre-production. And whilst we're going back to that core mode that we're making at the moment and building up from there, it's not to say that we won't have PvE or PvP experiences that we build into the game. But...
No, it's to say we build the core first, and then
raiding the arcologies, man. I'm telling you,
and we bring on top of that.
Yeah, it's very difficult because we brought people on really early.
Yeah,
right. We've been in pre-alpha for 3 years, and now we're going into an alpha period. People will only really, for any other project that's ever released, you'll only ever really be seeing the project when we go into early access is when a lot of people join. So I get that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily see that experimentation part. They'd see the bit that we've done the experimentation, we've taken the learnings, and now we've built a solid product from it. So we've gone through that journey with them. And I understand, people may feel like, well, why aren't you finished yet? And it's like, well, this is how it works. You experiment, you find the right ideas, you're in basically a pre-production step. And now we start shifting towards alpha. Now we're starting to really boil it down to the things that we can get going back to that foundation and building on top of it.
Here we are.
I did just show off 3 other pictures that's been shown. Now, the thing is that, you're right. It's not very much lush jungles or anything like that. But part of that's because some of these are barren planets, some of these are lava planets, and there's something about smashing a tree or a ship into the planet that might do some damage to the local ecosystem. Just throwing it out there.
Oh, okay.
Here we are.
Okay, so we build the core of Vanguard, and then we're going to see some shades of Eve past and future coming into it on top of that.
And there will be some of that embedded in the core, right? This is an Eve FPS, right? It's going to feel like an Eve FPS, and we want it to. It's going to be embedded in that core, but all of those meta features, all of those customization features and those fitting features, it gets a lot easier to layer them on top when we've nailed a decent shooting experience. And you'll get a bit of that. Like weapon fitting is deep already enough in Vanguard, and the next thing that we get to when we get to fitting is certainly suits. Everyone's been asking for suit fitting and different suits, and that is coming, right?
Yeah. Okay, so stick with us for the core, and then the cherries on top will be along in no time.
Yes.
All right, I think I've taken up enough of your time today.
Thank you.
We didn't even...
So also, here's a picture from the Solstice blog, just to make sure that we see what I was talking about. Like, this is part of what Solstice looked like. So there was like a whole like jungly area, alien jungle planet. So I don't know if that's exactly what you were talking about, but it was there.
Been talk about the shirt, but we've run out of time.
I agree that space stations, like raiding space stations, arcologies, the G244 station, like that actually is what excites me the most. I wrote an article a while back called "Through the Looking Glass." No, Gazing at the Crystal Ball or something like that, where I talk about how they could set it up so that as a structure timer, a structure timer is a time where everybody knows that that's where the fight's going to be. And so you could have carriers and super carriers with special crew, CRU, clone reanimation units, and support fighters that support an attacking fleet or attacking squad inside of the structure. So like the defenders would be able to set up ahead of time. The attackers have to break in, and they use up the clones that are provided by the carriers as they do this, and they have to secure different points that can help shut down defenses or make the attack on the outside of the structure easier for the attackers. But if, for whatever reason, those carriers get destroyed or driven off, then those invaders lose their backup clones and get cut off. And so there's like a two-front war. And I've talked about that for a long time. There are some issues with it. Certainly the biggest issue is as soon as tie-dye gets involved, it becomes very weird how like the shooter would operate in a world in which the space side of it is like running at 10% speed. But I still think it would be a cool idea to do.
So thank you very much for watching. Right, so if you have questions that we can answer on a future pod.
I do love the idea of like you're a breacher pod, so you got 1 minute to do as much damage as you possibly can. Where they show a Caldari ship landing on a structure with Galente design. I'm not sure which one that is. Unless you're talking about the... No, I don't know which one you're talking about. Shoot me into a Keepstar and let me flip it. Take possession of it. Hell yeah. All right. Well, I feel like that's pretty much good. We're right at about 3 hours. And today was going to be a little bit more of a chill day. Because like I said, today is literally just preparation for tomorrow. So go get some rest. I was going to do some faction warfare, but I feel like this has covered it. I might go do some faction warfare off stream afterwards. Hell, I might even go live again later tonight. I don't know. I have no plans. I have no plans. But I do plan to be back here tomorrow at my normal time, where we will be covering everything that gets revealed between now and then at FanFest. So that will be where to be, when to be there, etc., etc. We should probably also do some giveaways during that time or whatever. We'll figure it out. But so tomorrow at the normal time and Saturday, we will be doing streams to cover all of the stuff during FanFest, etc. And then, of course, next week, again, we have the Sylphie stuff. We have the last week of the event. And then whatever else we have to do, who knows? We'll find out more tomorrow. But until then, I've been Ashrothi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talking about it since 2012, and I'm here to put Eve into context for you, my fellow Empyreans. And boy, has it been a day, a week, a month of putting things into context. I do strongly recommend going back and watching. I've been putting out this cutout segments from previous episodes in the last week that would be very relevant, especially New Eden news and other analysis like that. So make sure to check those out. Some of you have, and I really love it. Make sure to like those videos, including this one, and comment on those videos, including this one, and subscribe to the channel for all of the latest. Also, hop into our Discord in order to, chat with us, join the Convocation of Empyreans, hang out in comms with me, etc., etc. That's a good place to go. And then, of course, if you are new to Eve or you've just never used the buddy code, you can use the buddy code down below or in the chat. That goes to one of the people that helps make the Convocation of Empyreans and this channel possible. If you do want to support the channel, the best thing you can do is just watch the video all the way through and give it a like. The next thing you can do is you can become a member or a patron. Just takes it up to $1, or it takes only $1 a month to become a member. You get all of the emotes and early access to those cutout videos. You can also pick up some merch if you want to pick up some merch. We have a merch store, should be down below. And other than that, I also have my secondary channel at the Ashrothi Decanted channel, where I post all of my non-Eve Online stuff, including videos of my puppy, which you can check out. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show off one of the videos from there real quick. I want to show one video from my Decanted channel because this thing is my favorite video of Zoria so far. Hold on. I guess we'll close with this. That's it. She's adorable. That's all I had. I've been Ashrothi. Special shout out to my top tier supporters, including 745 MPSI, Arydanika the Queen, Bad Boy Smooth, Evo Elite, Erladis, Elange, Flash Gordon, Grims, May, Malak Starfire, Malin, Mercuton, Maik, Morkar, Michael, LM1, Neelam, Sheesh, Susro, Threns, and Rid. And you know what? I'm going to throw up there also Airy, which is in chat, is TL Leo. First of all, I do apologize for getting you stranded in Amar in the war, and also just like good dude, man. Airy's a good dude, along with everybody else. So all that said, I have been Ashrothi, the voice of New Eden, and until next time, I'll see you in space. So repeat, yes. Shout out to Seventh Heaven, too. You're always here, always supportive, and I love you. 07.
Every city